Councillor Smith. Councillor Tormley. Councillor Troy. Councillor Walsh.
Okay, thank you. So I go into this note now. All mobile phones should be on silent or switched off for the duration of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being webcast. All members, please remember to switch off your microphone when you finish speaking. All members are reminded that the Chamber's non-smoking vaping area standing orders will apply to all aspects of the meeting. Councillors are reminded of the provisions of Standing Order number 92 that all members are bound to act in accordance with the ethics framework and code of conduct for local authority members to cooperate with the orderly conduct of meetings, the direction of the Mayor in a manner that is respectful of colleagues. Members have been circulated with the agenda for today's meeting, and any member forming the view that they have a conflict of interest in the matters of subject to today's agenda should now disclose same. Councillors are also reminded of the provisions of Standing Order number 93 that members must bear in mind that discussions at council meetings are not privileged. No member may make false statements, impute improper motives, or use offensive or unbecoming words in reference to any member of the council, employee of the council, or any other person. Any member having made such statements or used such objectionable words and not explaining or retracting same or offering apologies for the use thereof when requested by the Mayor to do so shall be called upon by the Mayor to withdraw from the meeting. Members making such statements or comments may find themselves personally liable for them. So we'll go to the agenda now. Item 1A, confirmation and reaffirmation of the minutes of the council meeting held on Monday the 8th of September, proposed by anyone? Councillor Humphreys, and seconded by Councillor, here we go again, Emer Carboni. Have I got it right? Mangan. Have I got it right? Yeah, right. Grant. Okay. And then the next one, 1B, confirmation and reaffirmation of the minutes of presidential election special meeting held on Friday the 12th of September, proposed by Councillor Kieran Dennis and seconded by Councillor Walsh. So nominations. I'm going to go to Mary Egan, I think. I'll let Mary Egan refer to this.
Thank you. Mayor, we're proposing that this item be deferred until the November meeting.
Okay, thank you. And then questions 3 to 18. Sorry, where am I now? Which one? Oh, sorry, yeah, I missed one there. 2C, appointment of one member to the Dublin and Dundee Education and Training Board to replace Councillor Old Dockrell, who's resigning from the board. And seconded by Councillor Luke Cockery. Is that agreed? Agreed. Okay. And then questions 3 to 18. Proposed. Is it proposed and seconded? Yes. Proposed and seconded. So proposed by Councillor Mary McCamley and seconded by Councillor Walsh. And then, hold on. Where are we here? Let me see. So, reports of committees. So I go to the first one. So it's 19A, quarterly reports of the Strategic Policy Committee meetings. Meetings? Then I'll go to each one, is it? No?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 19B.
No, you need that one proposed and seconded.
This one here?
So, yeah,
all of them?
Proposed and seconded.
Okay, so it's the whole lot. Okay. Quarterly reports of the Strategic Policy Committee meetings. Proposed? Okay, and seconded by, proposed by Councillor Kieran Dennis and seconded by Councillor Owen O'Brien. 19B, report of organisation, procedure and Organisation, Procedure and Finance Committee, OPNF meeting held on Monday the 8th of September, proposed by somebody? Councillor, yes?
In relation to the SPC report, I just want to draw attention to a couple of matters. One is in relation to a motion, or sorry, the planning SPC. There's reference to a motion in the minutes. The motion in the name of Councillor Owen O'Brien was proposed by Councillor Owen O'Brien and seconded by Councillor Carl Boland, but there's no reference to what the motion was. So I think we have to improve on that as well. And then in another one, which I just can't find now, there was a reference to a description of what the motion was, but no proposer or seconder. So I think we need to improve on that reporting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ryan. Oh, that's noted by whoever. So we'll go on to then 19B, report of Organisation, Procedure and Finance Committee. Can I have a proposer, please? Or I'll propose Councillor Malachy Quinn, and I'll second that. Then we go on to 19C, report of Balbriggan Rush Lusk Swords Area B Area Committee meeting held on Thursday, 11th September, proposed by Councillor Councillor Newman and seconded by Councillor Kelly. Okay, where are we now? Let me see. D. 19D, report of Holt Malahide Services B Area Committee meeting. Proposed by Owen O'Brien, seconded by Evie Tormey. And then 19E, report of Blanchardstown Mulhullard Castleknock Ongar Services B Area Committee on the 2nd of October. Proposed by Councillor Walsh and seconded by Councillor Ellen Troy. Thank you. And then F, report of corporate policy group meeting held on Monday the 6th of October 2025. I propose that and seconded by yes on the CPG group. Okay.
Thanks Mayor. Just a question on the proposal of the County Arts Plan extension. It just says that they recommended that it extended be to 2029, but I'm just wondering, is that a recommendation to this council? Is the CPG empowered to make that extension, or does it have to come to us for, I guess, approval? Because it says here the CPG.
I think it's on the agenda.
On the agenda, Councillor, is a recommendation from the CPG to full council, and it's on the main agenda as a headed item, and
Today.
it's a resolution for the members to pass.
Okay. Okay, so I propose the F, the corporate policy group meeting. That's proposed, and it's Brendan Ryan seconded. Okay, Grant. Oh, question? Yes.
Yeah, well, it's draw attention to a matter on that. Can you go forward to I'll go back to that. It's a question of events funding in relation to the flavours of Fingal. You can see Councillor Brendan Ryan that he noted that he disagreed with the recommendation. I did ask at the meeting, I attended that meeting, and I asked that the reason be reported in the report as well, included in the report. And my interest in opposing it, that it go forward in such a fashion, was because at previous briefings, members had asked that the directors would come back with greater detail about the justification of this being cut from something that would accommodate 80,000 attendees and reducing it to 40,000. Now, and that it would be facilitated for discussion amongst the members generally. So that hasn't happened, and I'm just drawing attention to the fact that this method has been used to, in my view, to bypass proper discussion at a full council meeting. Thank you.
Noted. So we go on to G, 19G. Yes.
Thanks, Mayor. Just looking at that item, I see there was a presentation by Mr. Quinlivan as Director of Services on events, programme and funding. Could that presentation be circulated to all councillors? Thanks.
Mr. Quinlivan.
Members, I didn't give a presentation on the night because there had been briefings arranged for our members, but certainly we can circulate the presentation that was given at the briefing. It's no problem.
Okay, thank you. So now the last one.
Seeing that we were having a discussion of what's on the CPG, there was a letter that was sent to this chamber back in May from Dublin City Council asking us to join a working group. There's now been several CPG meetings and this still hasn't been discussed at us. Could you give a commitment that will be discussed at the next CPG and brought forward to this chamber at the next meeting?
Is that a subject of a motion?
That is the subject of a motion that we haven't reached on the agenda. The motion, there was some issues arose around a previous motion that hadn't been passed, but that motion is sitting on the agenda at the moment, and the council needs to agree whether it's interested in participating in progressing a tourist tax first before a nomination is made.
All right, your request is noted, and we'll see if we get to the motion today. I don't know. It's not subject.
No. It's on the motion.
Right. Yes, exactly. Okay, right, so we'll go to number 20, financial matters, a 3-year capital programme. I think Oliver's going to make a presentation, yes?
Need a proposal and seconder for
The last one, sorry, which one? Number G? So, sorry, the last one there, G, 19G, I'm jumping the gun. Report of Balbriggan Rushlow Swords Services B Area Committee meeting held 9th of October. I'll propose that somebody second, John Smith. Okay, that's done. So we'll go to Oliver now for number 20, financial matters, 3-year capital programme. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, members. So the capital plan was issued to you all this day last week, actually. We had an online briefing session on Wednesday evening, which was well attended, good discussion at it. And there was a facility to submit questions, and there was 35 questions submitted with the replies issued this afternoon. So just on the outturn, there's a huge body of work undertaken this year, and you can obviously see it all around the county. And the projected outturn is just over 560 million, which compares well with what we had anticipated in the capital plan that was presented last year. So there's a lot of significant projects progressing during the year. So several housing projects there in Palmastone, Churchfields, as well as the Swords Cultural Quarter, the Baldoyle Community Facility, and the work on the Our Balbriggan project and Skerry's Library, just as a flavour. So overall at the moment there's just over 700 million euro worth of projects on site, again spread over multiple departments. And these are just some of the activities during the year. So the housing in Ballymastone, Churchfields, the new community centre in Baldoyle, and the Harry Reynolds Road there. So the plan for over the next 3 years is just over 1.4 billion. So each of the directorates will go through their own area just to cover off the activity that they're doing. I'm just going to speak to the funding element. So the bulk of it is grant funding, which is from a number of different sources. So in relation to the housing delivery programme, the Department of Housing is the grant funder there, and then in relation to strategic infrastructure and active travel, NTA is the key funder there, and then you have the likes of the URDF funding for the Balbriggan project. In addition to that, we have funding from our levy schemes, 159 million in there. We have borrowings which are related to the SCQ, which we're drawing down at the moment. And then we have revenue provision. So this reflects the funding based on the current level of capital transfer provision in the budget over the 3-year plan. And the other area then is in relation to the under-assessment piece. So this is projects where the funding pathway is to be finalised, and there could be a number of different sources for that, including the likes of grants, capital transfers and co-funding opportunities. We will be looking, as we had outlined when we met all the council groupings during the summer in relation to the budget, we will be looking to include a significant enhancement to the revenue to capital annual transfer. We're still working through the budget at the moment, but I'd be hoping that would be in the region of 4 to 5 million. We're still bottoming it out on the budget, but so that would be focused on all those areas there. So the likes of community, libraries, the heritage properties and swimming pool. So I'll just hand to each director then just to go through their own area.
Thanks, Oliver. Okay, so in relation to housing, obviously we've had a large spend in the current year, above what we projected, which is really positive, and a lot of credit goes to the team here in Fingal, as well as our stakeholders in the department and AHBs and our construction partners. Looking at the plan over the next 3 years, you can see a consistent high level of expenditure. In 2025, we've had a really good outturn across a number of social housing sites. We have a few photos in the next slide, but the mixed tenure schemes in particular at Churchfields and at Ballymastone and Moortown in particular are, really efficient ways of delivering for us at scale and at pace, and that's what we'll kind of focus our attentions on over the next few years as well in terms of our strategic delivery of housing. We do have a strong pipeline in that regard, and we have first cost rental scheme coming on stream at the end of this year as well, so that's really positive. We have a large number of acquisitions and Part 5 turnkeys coming through the system as well, which we're talking every day to people through the planning and development process to achieve those Part 5 acquisitions. In terms of our own stock, we have a very active energy retrofit programme and a very active maintenance programme, as you can imagine, across nearly 7,000 units across the county. And then in terms of our traveller accommodation programme, which was passed at council this year, we'll be aiming to commence on site at the NCT site there at Slogue and progressing then through the design, planning and tenant liaison phases for a number of other schemes. So just a few photos there, Mournview and Skerries, social housing development on site, Belisk Park in Donabate, which came through this council last year through the Section 179A process again, really good speed of delivery for that type of development and people moving in there in terms of social and affordable tenants. And Churchfield then, we're continuing at pace on that large-scale development, and up the road here in Moortown, social and affordable delivery on site as well. So a good picture in terms of housing delivery. Moving on to the community then, again we had I suppose two large capital delivery elements to that over recent years. Meekstown and Baldoyle. Baldoyle just recently handed over to us last week to fit out, and we'll be opening towards the end of this year again. The focus on the community plan really over the next few years and over the last couple of years in particular has been to kind of strengthen and renew and upgrade our existing network of centres across the county. So whilst the Meekstown and the Baldoyle projects are get a lot of attention, and rightly so, there's a lot of really good work going on in the background as well in terms of St Margaret's Hall, things like St Margaret's Hall, Hartstown, Corduff, and then if we move on to the next slide, some examples of those again. Some examples of those in terms of Meekstown, Baldoyle, St Margaret's and Hartstown, and then on to the next one. Just a large amount of our centres are beginning to show their age, so we really need to make those investments to kind of keep them up to standard and to keep the doors open to make sure they're safe and comfortable for both the customers using them and also the staff working in them. So focusing on making sure that those centres are retrofitted and upgraded and everything is brought up to modern standards over the next few years. I think that's
Okay, go to the next director now. Who's next?
Mayor.
Okay.
Okay, we just fire on to the first slide there. I'm conscious that Linda Lally and her team have given quite detailed presentations to yourselves over the last few weeks. So look, I won't go through every single project, just given the time, but just to highlight a couple of the major projects ongoing in the county at the minute. So we have the Broadmeadow Way. Works will commence on the Northern Causeway in 2026, together with landward works on the Donabate side. Sutton's Malahide, we have consultants are appointed. Preliminary design and preparation of planning documents is well underway, and we would anticipate a planning application being ready to lodge early next year. Fingal Coastal Way, we're just closing out phase 2. And we will be moving. We've selected the stretch between Balbriggan and Skerries as a first phase. So we're moving ahead in the preparation of planning documentation, and the anticipated lodgement to the board would be the middle of next year for that first phase. The Lusk Rush cycle route, consultants have been appointed and the feasibility study is underway. The Royal Canal Greenway, there's continuing ongoing engagement with all the key stakeholders, including Waterways Ireland. And again, we are anticipating that we would have a planning application ready to lodge on Commission Planala early in the new year, early in 2026. Granard Bridge, which forms part of the Blanchardstown to Castleknock cycle route, is currently on non-statutory public consultation. Thank you. Blake's Cross, that's a significant piece of infrastructure. The consultants have been appointed and it's currently at stage 2, option selection and landowner engagement. The Donabate Distributor Road, again, it's currently on non-statutory public consultation at the minute, and there'll be some open days with members of the team as part of that process itself. The R132 connectivity project in Swords, again, significant piece of work. It's roughly a 25-month construction period. We would predict that we will be on site in March 2026, and we will be having some targeted consultation with yourselves and other key stakeholders in the coming weeks in preparation for that major project going on to site. Seamount Roads, consultants have been appointed. Initial phases of concept design are ongoing. The Portmarnock pedestrian bridge, so look, we would hope to have a contractor appointed this week. There's a 4-week period, a lead-in period to agree a method statement with Irish Rail. So all things being equal, 4 weeks from the contract being signed, we would be on site with that. So look, we'll communicate something formal to you this week and with some of the local residents as well. And whenever we have a confirmed commencement date, we'll also be in contact with a little bit more detail around that as well, because I know there's been a lot of queries coming in on that project. The Swords Western Distributor Road, again, Swords consultants have been appointed, and work is progressing very quickly on that. So we'll be looking to get into phase 2, the option selection, early in the new year. Concealy, the walking and cycling route. Again, we had a very successful non-statutory public consultation, a lot of engagement, a lot of submissions came in, a lot of good engagement with landowners. So we're now moving to phase 3, which is the commencement of the preliminary design and the preparation of the planning documents. And that piece of work will take between 6 to 8 months. Work is continuing on Swords Main Street. And again, similar to the R132, we would hope to have some targeted engagement with both yourselves and some of the key stakeholders in Swords, including the business community, in the coming weeks. So just moving on to Kevin Halpenny's area, parks, pitches, open spaces and biodiversity. So the 6 million has been identified for Braemore Regional Park, and we would hope to go to tender for the key piece of recreational amenity in there, which is the hub, next year. The works contract for Corduff Park has been awarded. We would hope to start enabling works before the year ends, and that's roughly an 8-month project to complete on site. There's a total of 6 million allocated to the biodiversity project, 2 million annually, and to fund projects such as the Matt River barrier removal, River Liffey options assessment, and the development of SUDS demonstration sites, and the biodiversity makeover of 3 housing estates. The Hazelberry Park Playground and the Hartstown Playground are before you this evening, and Mr. Halpenny and his team will take you through those Part 8s. But you can see there really significant investments, €350,000 each, really significant investments in those local communities. And I hope you're supportive of those projects tonight. The Ballymastone Recreational Hub, we hope to have to award a contract very shortly. And again, it would be great if we could be on site before the year ends. we remain optimistic that, weather-bound, that would be possible. The Rathmore Park Recreational Hub in Lusk is currently a detailed design with the work tender to be published in early 2026 and the works commencing in the middle of next year. Work continues on the Ward River Regional Park in Swords. We are moving, significant work is ongoing in the preparation of the planning application, which we hope to have lodged in the middle of next year. And the Mayor and I know a number of you were in attendance on Friday there at the official commencement of the Knoll Village Park development. Another great development for Knoll, and we would be hopeful that we will be inviting you back to the official opening in the summer of next year. And finally, just in terms of the ongoing work of the forward planning team, local area plans, master plans and studies, just confirmation there of the list that was agreed with the members, and that 3 million has been allocated to continue that work. Thank you.
Okay, I'm taking questions at the end of the presentations. Next, Director, please.
Thanks very much, Mayor. The operations capital works, the investment is in order to continue to maintain the high standard of services that are already available in the public realm. So it's constant reinstatement and enhancement of the roads. Connectivity works to the bridges and harbours. EV charging is now coming into the public realm, so we have to prepare for that. The regional parks, the pitches, the beaches, the public convenience refurbishment programme, the surface water and the improvement to our council depots. So the outturn to the end of the year, we had a budget of 19.92 million and we have a projected outturn of 21.84 million. The roads investment programme of 2.5 million. The roads that are selected, we generally try and do about 6 roads every year, about 20 kilometres of length of road. They're selected from the pavement management system and it's generally the regional roads in each area. Also we have in there replacement of footpaths and connectivity works and hoping to proceed with works in Rollstown as well. Harbours, we have 1.25 million in there at the moment. 2 biggest issues is Skerries. We're waiting on the foreshore licence application to come from the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine. We're awaiting those licences and that will inform the engineering foundation design and the construction of the entire new pier. In the meantime, however, we are going to have to do interim emergency works and they'll be carried out in Q4 of 2025. Balbriggan dredging, studies and design complete. We will have to make an application for the licence to dredging in Balbriggan to Mara and also the same for Lough Shinny. So there's provision in the budgets going forward over the next 3 years, but 1.25 million this year. Outturn on our bridges, 250,000 this year. The works to our bridges are done based on principal inspections and we have a work programme for each year. Then you have the burial grounds, the new Kellystown Cemetery, 650 plots, and that should be coming online in Q1 2026. It will also include the columbarium wall and there'll be a landscaped angel garden there as well. We have existing cemeteries. We have approximately 30 burial grounds with spaces available in most of the newer cemeteries, but I am looking at extending some of the plots, particularly extending at Knoll. I think we're running out of space there, but there is space for more plots there. So ongoing works at the burial grounds. The regional and local parks then 8.56 million spent this year. Biggest expenditure there was Newbridge on the wall. Enhancement works at the dog off leash area in Newbridge Domain and newly installed dog park at Latchford as well. So ongoing works in the parks, the playgrounds and the sports, the pitches, investments in all the existing pitches that are there, ongoing investment in the drainage, the stand topping and the aeration. We have to continue to install new playground equipment but also replace existing playground equipment that's there. So there's funding in that and some of the funding can come from levies and sports capital funding. And you can see drainage works there at sports pitch at Kettles Park. Coastal walks, beaches, car parks, 446,000, continue to invest in the beaches. with showers and accessibility works, but also looking to replace some of the lifeguard stations because they're nearing their life's end. Moving on to the public conveniences, with regards to the ongoing replacement of the public conveniences, I'm looking at the eco-toilets have been very successful at all of the beaches throughout the county, and I'm proposing to put eco-toilets into the car park at Donabate, also at the playground in Skerries, and also looking at the eco-toilets for Portrane until such time as we have the design for the toilets at Portrane. But also we gave a facelift there to the Portmarnock toilets, Portmarnock Beach, one of the busiest beaches that we have. So it'll be ongoing investment in the public conveniences, but I have to say the feedback on the eco-toilets has been, and they're very reasonably priced, so they've proved very successful. So we'll continue to work with that. Stormwater there, 977,000. You can see there it's carried out by our own crews, the direct labour crews, the Borough Beach outfall replacement done. So investment in that for next year. So for the next 3 years, 42.4 million with 17 million next year, and invested then in all of the various areas that I've gone through with you there. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Mary. Who's next now? David Story. Thank you.
Members, the department covers obviously environment, active travel and sports. The funding for active travel schemes is fully dependent on grant allocation from the NTA. The allocation for this year was 20 million, and that's split between ourselves and PSI. So you see the projected outturn, and that's trying to balance 36 projects across the county plus our safe routes to school. Our planned programme for the next 3 years is 101 million across all the various areas in the council, and includes active travel and public realm works and the swimming pool. Just go on over. So just Belaley landfill, Belaley landfill is nearly finished, and the plan will be to move it over to operations once there's a final plan delivered for that. We will be looking at a provision of solar PV on Belaley landfill, and we will be having a feasibility study done on that in 2028 in relation to that. Keep going over and keep going again. So just active travel then, obviously we have it under our pillars, so your strategic planning, protective cycleways, our towns and villages, our connectivity, our road safety and our mobility and behaviour. So just a couple of projects that have been delivered this year. So you've Newtown Bridge, Balheary Road, Swords. It's recently delivered, a project that being looked at over the last number of years that just cost over 1 million. Just gone out to tender, prices back in for Seatown Road, roundabout to Estuary Road. So that'll be commencing in Q4 and completed in 2026, and it's included in the allocation for 2026. One of the successes, I think, of active travel over the last number of years has been the permeability and connectivity, and working with our colleagues in operations. We've 83 requests for additional permeability and connectivity works. So you just have a couple that were there, Wildcat Lane and Skerries, and then the Donabate permeability, which is the link from Beverton through Beliskin to the schools. The contractor's just been appointed there, and I know Breen was out with the local councillors going through that with them last week. So we still have a big list of items there that we have to look at over the next number of years. Old Navan Road, Auburn Avenue, so prices are in for that. Construction will start with some work in 2025, and then obviously completion for 2026. So that project is just over 5.5 million. So Hartstown Road, Huntstown Way upgrade. So as the members are aware, one of the first active travel schemes that we delivered was on the Hartstown Huntstown Road, and we now have a number of roundabouts that have to be upgraded. So they're in the plan for the next number of years. I think consultation is just starting on those, and I know Kieran has been out with the members on that, so that's included in the programme over the next number of years. Flemington Lane, Junction improvements, Balbriggan. So obviously the Harry Reynolds Road that Matthew talked about was delivered. So we're now obviously providing an improvement from Lambeacher up to where Old Warriors GAA Club, and contractors just commenced those works. So a couple of bigger projects that will happen over the next number of years. So Skerries Harbour, obviously with the support of the members, will be broken down into 2 phases, and we'll start in Red Island next year and then continue the works in 2027. So that works is in the programme for the next 3 years. Obviously New Street, following the successful JR for ourselves in relation to defending the JR, obviously we've been doing detailed design on that, and we're going out to tender on that in December. We've already engaged with some of the key stakeholders out there, so that works, and that will start in 2026 and finish in 2027. Keep going. So Feltham Road is one of the bigger schemes, obviously, that's in the programme, that brings from the Applewood petrol station on the Malahide Road all the way around along to the Feltham Road to Kettles Lane, and that's estimated at 12 million, and it's in the programme for the next 3 years. So detailed design and that will happen. Safe routes to school, being obviously the first school street nationally was in Fingal in 2020, and the national programme has been rolled out then. We've been successful to deliver a number of schools. So you'll see there, round 1, 9, just go back 1 second. Round 1, 9 schools complete. Round 2, 5 schools in design phase, and round 3, we 7 schools where there's engagement. That doesn't include the schemes where we've delivered as part of active travel schemes. So you have St. Cronan's, you would have the R132, a number of other locations as well. So we've close to 25 schools completed. I think there's 116 primary schools in the county, so there's a lot of funding needed to deliver safe routes to school. And we also are delivering a number of improvements outside schools where we're going in ourselves, where they're not full design, where we go in and do minor road improvements, and the team are doing that. And I've carried out improvements at a number of schools across the county. So there's just a couple of pictures. That's Pope John Paul in Malahide. And that's the type of works where you see, and in Pope John Paul there, just go back, Oliver, where there is a school street on your left-hand side where the traffic is blocked going in front of those houses, which for traditionally over a long number of years there was big issues with traffic. Keep going. So one of the other things that we are doing, obviously, as part of the programme is the Learn to Cycle tracks, and we've one in Blanchardstown, one in Holywell, and one in Brackenstown, and we'll be looking at 1 or 2 others. Part of the active travel remit is the activation of getting people walking and cycling. So these have been a big success over the last couple of years, and the programmes that Stephen and Emma are doing, our walking and cycling officers, have been proved very successful. So we have these in a number of locations. Blanchardstown District Heating Scheme. So as the members are aware, the government have given a commitment in relation to district heating, and in Blanchardstown we have the option of waste heat from a data centre to provide heating to the college campus, the HSE and the sports campus, and we have a business case done for that, and there's 1.9 million in now for getting into detailed design and getting a case ready for national funding. The overall scheme will be somewhere in the region of 50 to 60 million, but that'll be on a joint venture, and there's a bit of work to be done before we bring back something to the proposal to the members on that. But we're in a good place, and it's one of the schemes that has been identified by the government that should take place over the next number of years. And then just finally, Castleland Swimming Pool. As the members are aware, there was a commitment given over the last couple of years that we would provide for a swimming pool in Balbriggan. We've done our sports audit. We've identified as a primary location. We've been working hard in the background, and we hope to have the design improved in the next couple of weeks on that, and then go out to Part A planning before the end of the year, and hopefully come back to the members in Q1 2026, and then obviously move towards construction. The project is dependent on progress by the Land Development Agency of key site infrastructure, so we are obviously engaging with those at that location, and hopefully subject to that the pool will move forward. That's it. Thank you.
John Quinlivan up next, Economic Enterprise and Tourism, Cultural Development.
Thanks, Mayor. So, members, this plan sets out an investment of 116 million in the economic enterprise, tourism and cultural development of the county. Funding will come through a combination of development levies, loans, grants and revenue provision. While the proportion of the funding is under assessment, this has been reduced to 15% since previous plans, but it does remain a significant figure at 17. Revenue provision of 12 million is made to reflect the continuation of existing revenue provisions, but as Mr Hunt has already referred to the potential to increase this through revenue transfers in the budget process later this year. So this first slide shows across the road, the Culture House. It's advancing extremely well. They're within a day or two of programme. Further cost of 34 million across the duration of this plan. The procurement of a contractor for the public realm works is well advanced, and all works are targeted for an opening of Culture House in Q1 2027. Project is funded through revenue provision, borrowing approved by the members, and provision against development levies. Next slide shows 34 million investment in urban and rural regeneration, funding through a combination of urban and rural regeneration funds. 25% match funding requirement is provided through revenue in line with current revenue provisions. Under the URDF, the Our Balbriggan programme envisages 29 million investment, with Key Street on site and well advanced, with the Broome site cleared and the integrated design team finalising proposals for the site at the moment. 2 to 4 Dublin Street being advertised for tender in the coming days. The Bathhouse Boathouse on site for the preparatory works and progressing towards Part 8 planning process, and other projects in Balbriggan at various stages. A provision of 2.3 million is made for regeneration projects under RRDF Town and Village Leader and Town Centre First schemes. Match funding requirements is provided through revenue, and these will be the subject of success in those scheme applications. Investment of 2.7 million is projected under the URDF Development Sites Fund. Unfortunately, increased enforcement has resulted in compliance with derelict sites notice, so this has prevented us invoking these funds and getting the opportunity to spend this money. However, success on derelict sites compliance is what we're after. Look, every effort is being made and will continue to be made with this option available should it be necessary. The next slide shows 10.5 million will be invested in visitor attractions and heritage properties, with plans to continue the protection and conservation works at Swords, Malahide, Ardgillen and Newbridge House. Complete the Red Barn and develop the Martello Tower in Skerries. Complete protection works at Shackleton Mills and the Holt Martello Tower. An integrated design team is appointed to develop Skerries Mills and Braemore Castle further, and work will commence on the refurbishment of the Malahide Domain properties. Completion of conservation plans for all of the major sites will allow a longer-term assessment of their combined needs, and this will be included in future programmes. Other funding sources will be sought. However, this programme is predominantly self-funded, and a significant under-assessment figure that will be examined as part of the revenue budget process. The next slide shows over 15 million to be invested in economic development of the county. There's been substantial investment in assembling the Stephenstown Folkestown Land Bank in recent years, and so the focus in this programme will prioritise the infrastructure needed to develop and dispose of sites at Cherryhound and Stephenstown. An investment of 14 million is estimated, with planning and design stages commencing at the moment. Separately, in excess of £1 million will fund the planned improvements at existing industrial sites, with in particular improvements in the Dublin Enterprise Zone. Funding is provided through a combination of levies and revenue provision for these figures. On the next slide, an investment of 2.9 million will be made in council-owned properties and investment in arts planned activities. The Public Art and Percent for Art programme that was agreed by members in the Public Art Policy will provide for over £1 million arising from projects and planning application contributions. The Arts Office will be initiating an engagement process with members and the public to devise this public art programme over the coming months. With the appointment of the integrated design team, the development of Seamus Ennis Centre will progress, and again, members, projects like the Seamus Ennis Centres are considered to be under assessment pending the outcome of budget process in November. Finally, the last slide shows an investment of 8.6 million in Fingal Libraries that will include the final completion costs of the first phase of Ballisk House and the cost of the second phase planning, design and construction of that library extension. Upgrade and improvement works at Balbriggan, Blanchardstown and Malahide, including my open library facilities at those locations. Planning for the improvement of library facilities in Holt, and an interim library to be provided for Churchfields in 2026, and a preparatory work for a large permanent library in later stages of Churchfields. Again, members, very little external funding is available in these headings, so projects are largely self-financed and again pending the outcome of revenue discussions later on this year. That concludes this department's programme. Mayor, I'm back.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, Mary Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. And in this part of the division, we have 6.1 million in total. 4.5 million of that is on the corporate side, with County Hall having 1.6 million, which includes for energy performance improvements, including electrical and fire safety upgrades, and also lift replacements are provided for here, as well as remediation works to the glass facade and other upgrade works in County Hall. Drake and Blanchestown Library, 750,000, which is works mainly to the main roof of the building and provision of PV panels. Grove Road Civic Offices, just over $500,000 there. Again, energy performance improvements, including lighting upgrade, lift replacements and remedial and maintenance works. Also some provision there for future EPC projects. And then on the digital services side, 1.57 million there, mainly for the replacement of core network infrastructure, both in County Hall and civic offices, and monies to facilitate the moving to virtual storage or cloud-based storage versus on-premises, so placement of switches and disks there. So that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have about 6 councillors here. Before we go to that, I want to congratulate all the directors and the chief executive on that huge work programme. We're going to spend 1,434 million over the next 3 years, or 1.4 billion. Of that, 884 million on housing, 264 million on strategic infrastructure and planning, 102 million on environment, climate action, active travel and sport, economic enterprise, tourism, cultural development, 116 million, 42 on operations, 20 million on community. That's a really substantial budget, not to be, we should be shouting about it more, because the people don't know about it too much, except when it lands in their community. And I'm very happy to attend the openings of various community centres, particularly Meekstown, and I forget the name, Baldoyle, where I met Joan Hopkins there. And stuff like that is just fantastic for the community. I'm going to go now to the Meekstown. I'm going to go now to the councillors. So first up, I have Mary McCandy.
Thank you, and thank you for all the work that all the directors have done. I just want to ask Mr. Carroll, you know, you say the improvement works for the community centres, but they're all under assessment. Does that mean there might be dodgy having funding for them when something is under assessment, rather where the funding is coming from? That's just one of the questions. The other question is for operations. Are there any plans in the funding, either in capital or maybe even in the revenue budget, for the electricity points in estates where there aren't any gardens? And then another thing is actually the Mulhuddard Cemetery improvements too is under assessment, so I'm a bit worried about that in case the funding doesn't come in. But my big question is the Churchfields Library, which came as a great surprise to me to read this in the book, and I was delighted to see it, and thank you to the manager for ringing me and explaining it to me, because I didn't know where it came from. But anyway, I would be delighted to have a library in Mulhuddard. It's a brilliant thing to have. The only worry I have is that it will be in the community facility that's on the plan in phase 1. And if it's in there, as I said to the manager, are we sure it will be moved when it comes to phase 2 or phase 3, and that our community facility will not have the library in it forever? And that a bigger library will be built, or a more sustainable library will be built in phase 2 and phase 3. And how do we go about putting that in the plan now, so that when it comes to it, we're sure that we're going to move that library from the community centre? As you know, Mulhuddard Community Centre was to get an extension, now not getting an extension, which I'm very disappointed about, but we needed that community facility in Churchfield so that we could move some of the some works into that community facility in Church, and now we have the library there. So that's just my worry. Whereas one, I'm delighted to see the library, and at the same time, I'm worried about taking over the community facility in Churchfields. So just to make sure that people know that library will be moving.
Time.
And we'll have a bigger library in phase 3, and that it's not left there. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I will have more councillors. I'm going to take 4 at a time and then we'll go for answers. So next up we have John Walsh. Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mayor, and thanks for the presentation. Obviously, want to really welcome the capital plan. Lots of fantastic investment here, and lots of good news. I've a few questions, and I'll run through them as quickly as possible. So, firstly, just Mr. McAleese referred to the Granard Bridge project, which is very positive. It's great to see that's going ahead. I think it's really essential that that's in place before the Dart West project. Before the Dart West project is completed by Irish Rail. It does say that project is integral to the Blanchardstown to Phoenix Park cycle route, and that was also an answer I was given recently by the Chief Executive. I'm just trying to find out, are there any plans to progress the Blanchardstown to Phoenix Park cycle route or any funding for it? Because I suppose while the Granard Bridge project is fantastic and it will greatly improve safety on the bridge, there are concerns, particularly from Fingal Active Travel, that, as it were, it could simply be stranded, or if the Blanchardstown to Phoenix Park cycle route doesn't proceed, the Granard Bridge project will be left very much in isolation. Another quick question then on active travel. I'm very pleased to see that there's funding for the Castleknock to Blanchardstown via Farmley cycle route. And is the intention to have that completed by 2028? Might just try to clarify that. A couple of other questions then. I note that there's funding for the Liffey crossing. I couldn't make the briefing because I had a work engagement at the same time. So really just wondering what that is. Is that linked to the Silver Bridge, or is it something different? And then also the Royal Canal, or the Lucan, the canal loop Greenway from Lucan to the Royal Canal. It's good to see so much funding for greenways. I'd just like to check, is that linked to the Royal Canal Greenway? I know it's separately funded, but is it linked to the Royal Canal Greenway? And is it dependent on linking up with the Royal Canal Greenway? Because obviously the Royal Canal Greenway has been delayed for a number of years.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay, Councillor Owen O'Brien, I think. Is that right? No, Luke Hockery. Sorry, the screen is hopping here. Okay, Councillor Luke Hockery, and then Owen O'Brien.
And thanks to the team for the capital plan. Very substantial figures there. Just under the planning heading, first of all, the 1.9 million for Swords Transport Network, just wondering exactly what that refers to. And then secondly, the 7 million to the Ward River Valley Park project, that's very welcome. But just wondering if you could confirm, because I understand that includes provision of a playground. I'm just wondering if there are details available on that, and whether that's included in the budget here. And then on the operations side of things, Ms. Daly mentioned works in Rosestown. Just wondering, I presume that's the road beside the church. You might just confirm. And then just to welcome the facelift on the toilets, and particularly in Portmarnock, where I think it's very needed. But thanks very much.
Okay, and Councillor Owen O'Brien, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks to all of the directors for their presentations. There's a lot of very exciting projects being lined up, which is great to see. Just a couple of queries. The first one is around the Broomfield campus in Malahide. I know we've a sizable outturn for 2025 listed. I'm assuming that's in relation to the much needed pitch works that are currently underway, and very welcome. But I am concerned that we don't have any allocation then beyond this year. As Mr. Halpenny and a number of the directors will be aware, given they've been in meetings with the three stakeholder clubs, there is a need for redevelopment of that campus. For Sylvester's GAA, for Malahide Fingal Hockey Club, and for Malahide Regional Bridge Club as the three tenants there. So that would be a concern that I'd have, and I'd like to hear a comment from the manager on that. And then just one, it's a small piece of funding, but it bears mentioning. The Quiet Streets programme, we just have €80,000 set aside for next year. when we launched that pilot, it was one of those consultations that was quite heavily oversubscribed. So I would hope that we'd be showing a bit more ambition in regard to delivery of the Quiet Streets programme, and perhaps Mr. Storey could flesh that out a little bit in terms of how much can be delivered, because I know there's a lot of demand around the various towns and villages in the county for that. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll go to the directors now for some answers. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just deal with the funding query Councillor McCamley raised. So we have a number of projects that are listed under assessment. So what we'll be doing as part of the budget to be presented to you in November, we'll be increasing the capital transfers aimed at those areas. So they're primarily the likes of community, heritage properties and libraries. As Mr. Quinlivan said, there's really no other source apart from our own funding for those in any meaningful way. So we'll be increasing it, and look, we may need to increase it again in future years as well, but that'll be our objective as part of that budget.
Just a couple of queries. Castleknock to Farmley, that's not the full cost. That's just the first part of the costs. There is land acquisition there that's required, and obviously we'll be going to detailed design. So, but if we get through that process, that's the initial cost in 2028. Just on the Quiet Streets, yeah, Councillor Bryan is right. We had a lot of queries and a lot of support for Quiet Streets. I suppose one of the challenges was that when we went out for the 3 locations that we picked, we found that it was people who supported it, but they hadn't got overall support, and maybe some of the residents' associations. So look, we've done the one obviously in Droynham, but in the connectivity programme there's 300,000, and we're going to allow for some Quiet Streets there, and if we'll be talking to the NTA about that, but there is, I know Stephen McGinn has some proposals. I think there's one in Baldoyle, there's the further one in Droynham, and there's 1 or 2 other locations. So there'll be money available in the connectivity code if we go to roll it out.
Just in relation to Granard Bridge and further proposals in and around that, there's ongoing discussions with the NTA, and obviously just we liaise closely with our colleagues in Active Travel just in terms of identifying future projects and future allocation of the 20 million funding that Dave mentioned. So that's ongoing. The Liffey Crossings, that's a project that we're working with TII on. It's a standalone project, and it's separate from many of the other projects that are going on in the Dublin 15 area. The canal loop again, again separate from the Royal Canal. That project is been led by South Dublin, and we've had quite a lot of consultation with them. But it's likely that they have consultants appointed for that, and we'll feed into that where necessary. The 1.9 million transport network in and around Swords, those would have been projects that would have been identified through sustainable Swords. So it's again, it's just improving connectivity and permeability around the town itself. The 7 million for the Ward River Valley, so that's what we feel is a good estimate of funding over the next 3 years, just in relation specifically to the query on the playground. So that'll be a destination playground, and again, look, we would hope to have some engagement early in the year and look for feedback on that before it progresses to a planning application. Just on Broomfield then, Mr. Halpenny and his team are currently looking at the upgrade of the car parking and associated works, and again we would be looking to have some engagement in the coming weeks on that.
Just Mayor, come back in just on the EV charging for housing estates. So the EV strategy for the Dublin region was completed in 2022, and has identified that EV charging has to be provided for in a number of existing housing sites. However, the legislation there is causing us problems in relation to private wires belonging to ESB and not belonging to the local authority. So We've been engaging with ZEVI, the Zero Emissions Vehicle Office, and they're looking to issue new guidance in relation to that. And hopefully that will work its way to the Department of Housing, and then that will allow for the provision of EV charging in some of those locations.
Okay. So, Mary T. Daly.
Councillor McCambley, Mulhuddard Cemetery. We still have spaces in Mulhuddard Cemetery, just to reassure you of that. Not that we're trying to fill them or anything, but but we're at detailed design stage and tender stage for the expansion of Mulhuddard Cemetery. So I'll keep you updated on that. There's funding there, there's provision there for it, and we have commenced the detailed design and tender stage on it. Councillor Corkley, with regards to Rollstown, it's the connectivity works, it's the footpaths, it's the road, so it's improvement works and getting all those done in Rollstown. I think that's it for me.
Paul Carroll.
Just in relation to the library at Churchfields, as part of the existing phase, I suppose in consultation with the libraries team and John Quinlan's part, we saw an opportunity there to provide something very quickly. It will be a temporary library, and then phase 4, which will be on the opposite side of the new road. That's going through design stage at the moment with our architects team, and that will include community and library facilities for a more longer term arrangement. It's the existing phase is phase 3B, so this is the next phase will be phase 4.
Okay, and we're going to Councillor Donnelly, Angela Donnelly, next 4.
Thank you. Just like to raise the timelines of the capital plan, and I know it's the same every year, but I just think it's worth noting. So we received the capital plan on Monday evening the 6th, with a briefing at 5 o'clock on Wednesday the 8th. We had less than 24 hours to get our questions in. They had to be in on Thursday by 12 noon, and we received responses at 3:30 today. That's really not good enough. In terms of the actual plan itself, lighting, the lighting budget I think is very low. I know the age-friendly strategy highlighted that one of the key findings for older people was public lighting in terms of their personal safety. And I'm also really disappointed because we passed a motion in this council chamber earlier in the year for a pilot project in a park. And I put in a question and it says we're not going to do any pilot project in the park. So it just makes you wonder, what are we all doing sitting here? I do wonder sometimes. The CCTV provision is 700,000 over 3 years. The answer I received was that the CCTV is in place to protect council staff and council assets. That's not the case anymore, because we now will be using CCTV in litter hotspots. So I wonder, could we relook at 700,000 over 3 years, because it seems very low. And then I wanted to ask about Churchfield's library, but Councillor McCamley has done that, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and I recall that motion you just referred to about the park. And we go to Councillor James Humphreys.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, the collective, for putting together a comprehensive plan. Just to kind of follow on at Councillor Donnelly's point, this plan is for nosing. I normally have motions down on this. This is probably the first year I've been on the council I haven't submitted a motion. I share her frustration, but I'd also add it is a rolling plan. Anything that's in this plan still has to go through the normal considerations for planning, etc. So our nosing here today doesn't confer that it's going to happen. And on that note, I'd like just to draw the attention of the room that there's been a noticeable increase in the last 12 months where any programme or project that we are trying to get on through the area committee or the SPC, that the executive and the written response has been, this is not included in the capital budget, therefore we cannot proceed, and there's no discussion on it. And for us to build an argument for it to be in the capital budget, those type of answers need to stop. There has to be engagement at SPC and area committee meeting, serious commitment and serious engagement with facts, figures and numbers, so we can build an argument to be included in this. Otherwise, what will happen is that we'll revert to what was like 6-7 years ago, where everything went into it and there was no coherent plan in place. On that note, I have 30 seconds, so I'll be very quick. 2.3 million for the Glen Ellen Ballyhirry Junction. Is that for a project that is currently under a planning application? And if so, how come it's coming out of levies and not being paid for by the developer? The active travel, 85,000 per year for the cycle training thing are absolutely fantastic. But when I kind of measure that against 30,000 that we have in our operations budget for line marking on the street, I am just concerned about how much infrastructure is being put in under active travel without a corresponding money's going to revenue and operations for the maintenance of it. And then the town regeneration, that's a transfer from revenue. Traditionally, the derelict site levy was the bulk of the money that we transferred from revenue. I know it's not like it now comes from general, but central government decided to seem to have picked our pockets for pocket change in comparison to an overall budget. So was this plan done with the foreknowledge that the derelict site levy is now going to be collected by revenue and kept by central government? Or was the executive aware that we were going to lose that source of funding?
Okay, Councillor David Healy.
Cormagat Kirlig, and I'd like to thank the Chief Executive and the Directors for the capital programme. I have a number of questions, and a few of them I submitted during the week, and one of them was about the gap between the Fingal Biodiversity Action Plan requirements and the allocation in the budget. Now, at the discussion at the Biodiversity Forum, it was indicated that the capital requirement was about 4.7 million per year, and there's an allocation of 2 million per year here. And so I asked about that in the questions, and the answer I got was that a range of actions from the current Biodiversity Action Plan prioritised by the Biodiversity Forum will be implemented over the period of the capital programme. Now, this is the first time there was an indication to us that the Biodiversity Action Plan is kind of a menu as opposed to a plan intended to be implemented in its entirety. And the Forum hasn't been asked to prioritise actions, and I mean, we would be willing to undertake it if that was necessary, but I'm not clear that it is necessary and that we can't fund the Biodiversity Action Plan in full. Then, additional to that, Chair, I've a number of motions which arise out of the other questions. I don't know if you'd like me to go through them now or how you want to handle that.
I think we'll take them at the end of the questions rather than, and if
Thanks,
that's
Chair.
okay, and maybe some more information might emerge as we move along, relating to your motions, shall we say. Okay, yeah, right. Okay, and then we have Councillor John Burchell.
Thanks to the directors for the presentation. I missed the briefing last week due to work commitments. In relation to the planning and strategic infrastructure and the Scribbletown, Elm Green, Dunsink Land Bank, I don't see any provision made for infrastructure works. I see the local statutory plan. Does that mean that no infrastructure works will be undertaken over the next 3 years in order to prepare that site, a key resource, Fingal resource and Dublin City resource with the potential for up to 20,000 housing units according to a recent Fingal document. So it would be disappointing if no work is going to be undertaken, or does that fall under a different bucket? That's the first thing. And just secondly, in relation to the small provision made for the N3 upgrade, 1.3 million, relatively small amount of money. What is going to be done there? I know there was a much more ambitious plan for N3 upgrade up to the Clonee junction there some years ago, which seems to have fallen by the wayside. So I'd be interested to know specifically what that is relating to, particularly if it's relating to noise abatements on the section of roadway beside Whitestown and my own place. because road noise has been a significant problem there for a long number of years. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Now we'll go back to the directors for answers to those questions. I don't know who's up first. Anyone taking note?
Just in relation to Dunsink, I've been asked as part of my brief to look at the reopening of the lane. So you'll see under Dunsink I have a provision of 1.1 million there, so that's been looked at. Now that's not part of the overall infrastructure, but the reopening of the lane is being actively looked at the moment.
Okay, maybe Matthew, is it?
Sorry, Mayor. Just in relation to no money being allocated to Dunsink. Look, there's been a huge amount of work done by the team just in bringing forward the initial phase, which was a baseline study of the environment out there. That will inform the local area plan. We're bringing that first phase to a conclusion, and we hope to start very quickly then on the local area plan, and there'll be engagement with the local councillors in terms of what that looks like. In terms of funding, we had an initial meeting with the Housing Activation Office. I understand there's a €200 million annual fund now been set aside to open up lands such as Dunsink. Look, we're in early discussions, and we would be optimistic that funding that's needed to open up those lands will come from central government as opposed to our own levies, but it will certainly be supplemented by our own levies in future years, but that will be identified as part of the local area plan process. Just on the N3 upgrade, that's an NTA project, so we're working with our colleagues in Meath County Council. That 1.3 million, it really is just to move that process along. It's that, obviously, as you rightly point out, look, that's not an on-site construction funding there. That's more consultant fees to continue to move that project along. Just in relation to biodiversity, look, a lot of the 2 million that has been identified in the capital plan is for the acquisition of land, and I've worked very closely with the team just in terms of identifying potential land. The council has acquired, and the council continues to acquire land through different projects and through different departments every year. And what we're always striving here is value for the public purse. And if an acquisition of land can serve several objectives, for example, if it can be CPO'd for active travel or a road, and there's opportunities for biodiversity, then that's the first place that we should be looking. So what we'd be in discussions with the team about is using land that we own or land that we've recently acquired. For example, we acquired a significant land bank over in Cold Winters in Dublin 15 for the extension of St. Catherine's Park. There's huge opportunities there for biodiversity, and really that's what we're saying to the biodiversity team. There's 2 million allocated a year. The team have been resourced up. There's additional staff in there. There was a small underspend this year, but we would expect with a fully staffed team and a refocus on the current lands that we have or have recently acquired, that's where we feel that the €2 million biodiversity budget should be focused, along with the 400,000 that they have in the revenue budget as well. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other? Mary T. Daly.
Councillor Donnelly, the CCTV, we didn't have any provision in the capital budget last year for CCTV, but we spent 355,000, and that was CCTV that we had to put into Millennium Park and to Lanesborough. 700,000 over the next 3 years is sufficient. I would prefer that I didn't need to have such a high budget for CCTV, but I have, and there's been substantial investment in CCTV in Dublin 15 in 2025. So we'll continue to monitor that. I've no doubt that the CCTV issue will come up through the local community safety partnership, because there is a section of the Policing Act that hasn't commenced with regards to community-based CCTV. So I can see changes coming down the line with regards to that, but we'll keep you updated through whoever's on the partnership. With regards to the public lighting, we have to remember that we have a debit in the capital budget with regards to the replacement of the LED lights, which was 34,000 lights. So the funding for public lighting is provided for in the revenue budget, and it's revenue to transfer provision has to be done every year to pay that debt, first of all. With regards to the public lighting, the budget is in revenue. Last year we put in an additional 400,000 because there is a substantial number of poles that have to be replaced. I'll be going through that with you at the revenue budget, and it's leading to faults throughout the system. With regards to a pilot scheme, I'm not aware of us agreeing to do any pilot scheme. I think we were very clear in outlining what our position was with regards to public lighting in parks. The members will get their works programme in December. If the members want to look at something in the Dublin 15 area, they can certainly do so. But I think we were very clear in our response with regards to the pilot. So just to be clear, the public lighting budget is in revenue. It's not in capital. I don't have any funding source with regards to public lighting. It's not provided for in levies or grants. So, but the revenue budget has certainly increased with regards to public lighting.
Okay, very quickly, because we're 20 past 6 now.
That there was a motion passed. You know, I'm not daydreaming here. We did get a motion passed in this chamber.
That's true. Okay, I'm going to move on Quinlivan.
Councillor Humphreys just asked about the derelict sites levy. There's no loss of a source of funding here. This is just, the derelict sites levy was always kind of complementary to our capital transfer from revenue, so it's not affected. In relation to planning this capital programme with advanced knowledge about the revenue commissioners, that was not the case. And certainly what I've heard is that the revenue commissioners will be involved in the collection. I didn't see anything about them, central government retaining derelict sites tax, but I do know it's to be worked out and will require legislation. So we'll see what develops in that space.
Hope so. So if we're ready to go, going on to the next councillors. Councillor Siobhan. Who's that? Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Humphreys, I meant to come back in the next set. So the Balheary Junction, it'll be there will be funding. There will be some funding from developers in the area. But the junction itself will have bus priority and active travel. Hence, we'll have to contribute to that ourselves. There's some third-party lands that are required as well to facilitate it. So it's quite a large project. We're working with a couple of the developers out there on the design at the minute. Look, as I say, it will be part funded by development levies.
Okay. So Councillor Siobhan Chauvin.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a few items that I want to bring up is the Royal Canal Greenway obviously is included. Can I just ask, because I continue to be asked time and time again by constituents, are we still on track for submitting a planning application for that for the end of this year? There's also 50,000 for Shackleton. I'd just be curious to find out a little bit more about the inner details of that. The St. Catherine's Park extension sounds really, really exciting, and I see there's 1.3 million allocated to that. Again, a little bit more information or clarity around that would be really helpful. And finally, the road from Mayos to the M50 bridge, is that more a sort of a short-term project that we will be looking at doing rather than something that's further down the line? Thank you.
Okay, Councillor John Smith.
Thank you. So firstly, I want to say a massive thank you to the executive. I'm delighted to see monies being put forward for the revamp or reopening of Rivermead Community Centre. It just makes sense in light of the change in needs in that estate. There has been changes to the school, there is a need for childcare provision, and there's a community centre that's sitting there for years that needs to be reopened. Again, thank you for the details on the spending or the estimated cost of the bridge in the Ward River Valley redevelopment. I'm looking, it's about 15.4 million. That's an active travel bridge. Does that come completely from grant funding, or because it's inside the park, is it coming from different sources? And look, regardless of the cost of that, it would be pretty remiss of me not to highlight that in spite of the fact we passed a number of motions this year alone in relation to indoor community space in Brackenstown. It's not been included in any budget here. There's been 8+ motions over the years passed in relation to that. We now have the absolute perfect opportunity, as we're designing a sports hub, to add community space connected to that. We can take advantage of economies of scale. One of the executives mentioned value for the public purse there earlier on. This is the perfect time to build something there for a fraction of the cost in other circumstances. So I'm really disappointed not to see that included. And I'd compliment what Councillor Humphrey said in terms of that. It is very frustrating when we're passing motions time and time again and they just seem to be ignored. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Helen Redwood.
Thank you. Yeah, so just a couple of questions. The first question is really about the wheelchair access to Balbriggan Beach. You'll see that I've got a motion in. I don't know, we probably won't reach it tonight again, but I'm just wondering, you know, my motion proposes a certain type of wheelchair access. So I'm wondering what exactly is planned for that. Maybe you could just let me know. The other question I really wanted to raise was about the old schoolhouse, because, you know, I know obviously that the master plan isn't statutory, so that means presumably there's, you know, developers able to ignore certain things that they don't want to go ahead with. Now, I mean, I know that as well from the briefing that's been given, that the councillors, or that we've been told that, you know, that if there's a certain insistence about renovating the old schoolhouse for community use, then that could possibly delay the development. And, you know, obviously the architect's report, on the other hand, is talking about the rapid deterioration of that building and that we need to get on with it quickly before more of it is lost. But there is substantial preference for developing that, the old schoolhouse as a community facility. Now, I think there was 3 million came up there, and that, as in previous years, it's been said there's not enough money to actually buy the land there. And yet ownership is the only way that the council's going to be able to, you know, insist on or ensure rather that development takes place along certain lines. So is there another way around this? Is it possible that if it's not possible to buy the land, could a deal be struck? Is it possible that it might be you know, something could be worked out which offset the levies which the developer has to make to the council, you know, in order to provide the council with long-term leasehold, for example, which would, you know, something like tenancy in perpetuity, which would mean then the council will be able to develop it in the way that, you know, people would like to see it develop, you know, maybe as, I'm just finishing now. Okay. That if not a community centre as such, which doesn't seem to be favoured, but something like a cultural centre, a little bit like the Seamus Ennis development, for example, that seems to be, you know, really sort of lovely development on that side. Why can't we have something similar on the west side of the county? So I'll finish there.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Joan Hopkins.
So I'm just concerned about the biodiversity plan. Climate change seems to have gone off the agenda completely, but a healthy ecosystem builds resilience to climate change, which is, we all agreed a while ago, is the greatest challenge of our time. So Fingal County Council committed to full implementation of the Fingal Biodiversity Action Plan, and the current level of resourcing is inadequate to achieve this commitment. So examples of projects that cannot be proceeded with include the development of master plans for European protected sites at Malahide Estuary and Baldoyle. So we do need to do something about that. We can't ignore it. If this entire plan was implemented in the next 3 years, it would be absolutely fabulous. But I suppose I have a concern about slippage and timelines. Like, for example, the older community centre refurbishment, we had on one of those projects we met with the Architects Department in 2018, and still that has not gone to for planning. Similar situation with the active travel, the Sutton to Malahide. Like, we were definitely going for planning in September. Then we got an email saying it would be the end of this year, and now the director has just said it'll be early next year. And I feel years just get lost and lost. And I would like a comment about, like, is it a lack of resources? Why is this? Why is this slippage continuously happening? Because these are all fabulous projects, and if we could implement them within the time frame, you know, it would be fantastic. We have a situation where, you know, maybe the Sutton to Malahide is a bit of a nice to have, but the Concealy to Portmarnock, Feltram Road, the safe routes to school around Malahide, Concealy, like, these are all like really dangerous areas. We can't afford to waste any more time. Like, if these are implemented within 2 years, great, but we need to be looking at, if they're not going to happen in 2 years, how are we going to make sure that people, particularly children and vulnerable road users, are actually kept safe? The other thing is about we do need wheelchair accessible toilets in Portmarnock Beach. If we could have that included in the project. And also, I don't see a whole lot there for Howth, Balscadden Beach, that we've been speaking about for years, and just the village, Howth Village public realm as well. And sorry, finally, have we any plans to get more funding, or are there any avenues for more funding for the safe routes to school? Because as the director said, there's 116 primary schools in the country, and we're really just barely in double-digit numbers of schools that we're actually getting covered. Thank you.
Okay, so that's 4. We'll go back now to the council officials for answers.
Yeah, just Balscadden Beach. I'm pleased to say we have consultants appointed. We have a proposal in relation to improvement of the steps there. That will take place in hopefully February or March. It is covered in the connectivity code. As I said, we've 80 odd projects in that, so it's in there. So that will commence early in 2026. In relation to the safer routes to school, like, that's a national programme where schools were obviously given the chance to apply for funding, and I think in Fingal we had 40 schools out of the 116 applied, and they're on a programme now for delivery. So it's run by Antashka, and obviously they come out with various reports, and then we have to go off and do a design and appoint consultants. So we're in that programme. In relation to, you just mentioned in the school on Malahide Road and Posey Row, that is in the programme, and obviously that will be done over the next number of years, but that depends on obviously the design, but it is in the programme to be delivered within the next 2 years. The challenge over the safe routes to school is that there are so many schools nationally that require infrastructure, and we're being told at the moment that the funding is the 20 million. Now that may change next year, and if it does, hopefully there will be more funding for safe routes to school. But we have taken intervention in some schools, in some of the rural schools, where we are obviously doing programmes ourselves, and we're funding that through levies. So that's something that we can possibly have a look at. But like, it is a programme that we are trying to deliver a number of schools each year. Matthew.
Thanks, Dave. Just on the Royal Canal, the challenge with the Royal Canal is that we're working very closely with Waterways Ireland, and we do need their consent before we can lodge a planning application. There have been a number of changes and tweaks and amendments as part of that engagement, and every time there's a tweak, given the environmental sensitivities along the canal itself, it means we have to go back and we have to update all our environmental assessments and make sure that they will survive the scrutiny of the board and potentially a judicial review. So that's essentially where those delays come from. Look, we're working as hard as we can. That engagement with Waterways Ireland and the amendments, I think we've resolved most of the issues that have been raised. So look, as I say, we're working towards the planning application being lodged early in 2026, and that's the date that we are working to, and the team's working to. Just on the Shackleton's Gardens, the 50,000. So that money has been allocated to a conservation management plan, and so that's what that funding's for. The St Catherine's, the extension of St Catherine's, and the recent acquisition of the coal winters lands that I referenced earlier. There will be a master plan done up for those lands and how they will be brought into public use. But a lot of that funding is for active and passive infrastructure to make sure that it fully integrates with the existing park there. The Swords pedestrian bridge, look, that figure. It's a very high number. Hopefully that figure will come down as we get into more detailed design. But I can't underestimate how important that bridge is to how Swords will function from an active travel perspective going forward. And we will continue to lobby the NTA to fund that bridge, because really at its centre it's all about how North Swords and South Swords is joined, and it's a lot of the congestion in Swords is caused by the schools and people dropping their kids off to school. So if we can provide safe active travel for cyclists and pedestrians, it would hopefully address a lot of the congestion. Look, again, I remain optimistic that we could get that funding from the NTA. On the biodiversity action plan, look, it's a very ambitious plan, and I think it's right to be a very ambitious plan. I feel that the funding that has been allocated is the correct amount. I feel that if the fully resourced team that we now have in place can prioritise with the Biodiversity Forum the projects that they want to see go ahead, I think huge progress can be made in delivering all of the objectives that have been identified in the plan itself. I think with Hans Visser and the team, I think there's just a conversation just to understand how that 2 million will be rolled out in each of the years. Thank you.
Okay. And Mary G. Daly.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Redwood, with regards to the provision for the accessible mat at the beaches, I know there's a motion there as well, and we've responded to it. There is money in the capital budget under the beaches and the car parks and that. There would be sufficient money, but it's not actually the money that I'm looking at the moment. I'm just trying to figure out how, if we were to deliver it at one or two of the beaches, how would we deliver it? Because we did have a pilot with regards to the mats a number of years ago, and the struggles we had were with regards to getting the mats out. They're very, very heavy, constantly covered in sand and getting buried and then having to come back out. So it's a resource issue, but I am looking at it. I've also looked at, there is two accessible beach wheelchairs at two of the beaches. And I don't see great usage on it, but I think we need to advertise it more, that it's actually there. I think it's getting the word out there that the beach wheelchairs are available. It's Donabate and Portmarnock. But I'm still looking into that. It's not the actual mat itself, it's actually how to work it. And so we will come back to you on that. Councillor Hopkins, with regards to, we have an accessible toilet at Portmarnock. I know it's a portable, but we have an accessible toilet there, and there's a cost to that as well. The accessible toilet for Portmarnock will be considered once Irish Water resolve that issue with regards to the pumping station. But in the meantime, there is an accessible toilet there for persons with disability, and there is a cost to that, and it's quite a high cost. I'd prefer to have a permanent solution, but for the moment there is one there.
Okay, everyone. All your questions were answered anyway. Councillor Brendan Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. I too welcome this ambitious plan. A couple of very quick questions. I'd ask Mr. McAleese, in relation to the Fingal Coastal Way Phase 1 between the towns of Balbriggan and Skerries, could you confirm that it is between the towns at this stage, at this phase, and not down through Horrock and Key Street? I welcome the funding for the Ballymastone hub, but I don't see any reference to the Skerries recreational hub. I'm just wondering how and when that will find its way into capital plan. I am conscious that the contracts are being closed in relation to the purchase of the land, etc. They're not quite over the line yet, but how and when is my key question. Lochshinny playground, 350,000 in there, welcome that. And I see it is funded out of levies, so I think it will require a Part 8, so hoping that can be moved on as quickly as possible. I welcome the appearance of Lochshinny under the heading of active travel, so 100,000 next year, 100,000 the following year. I'm not sure what that'll achieve, but it's certainly welcome on the list, and it'll give some people hope there that things will happen. In relation to Balrotherry Heritage Centre, there is a figure of €120,000 in there for repairs to the roof. It was in this year as well, but hasn't happened because of lack of funding. Pat Boyle was down and identified we can see the water coming in, so it is essential that there is funding for that in this year ahead. And there's some mention of cemetery extensions, Balbriggan and Swords, 500,000. Can we just indicate where the location is identified in Balbriggan? Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Joe Newman.
Thanks, Chair. A few questions. One is for the Planning Department with regards to the Swords LAP that was directed to be carried out by the OPR. And is there any funding set aside for that, or what's happened with that one? The River Valley toilets need upgrading. I just would like an update on that. There was a low outturn on the climate action there for 2020, 24, 25. I did have a conversation, but I'm still not too clear on that, if that could be explained, why it was such a low outturn on it. As chair for the Climate Action SPC, I've been obviously involved in chasing down the funding for biodiversity. Councillor Healy did put in a motion. The Chief Executive addressed somewhat the other day in agreeing or saying that she will have a discussion with the Biodiversity Forum and trying to review and identify what actions need to be taken. I presume, I think that's what I heard anyway. I think, you know, the 2 million a year, I don't know if that's right. There was a couple of projects that I thought are not going to happen. Are we going to utilise the full 2 million for 2025? So just from the biodiversity aspect, I know there's general biodiversity, but we do have the action plan. And look, the action plan here, the chief executive is in the forward there, and she's actually said what way the plan is going. So that's our kind of Bible as to the way forward, and I don't see us deemed for that anywhere along the way. So we just try to work together and try and utilise the resources as effectively and as efficiently as possible. I'm just glad to hear about the acquisition of the land in St. Catherine's Park, land acquisition as part of that biodiversity, because we have land here in Swords that we've been pushing to try and have somewhat acquired for the very same thing, for biodiversity. And look, one of the most pressing concerns we face is the preservation of biodiversity. By dedicating land for biodiversity initiatives, we create space for nature to flourish. So I think to hear that about St. Catherine's Park and to hear that we're acquired land for biodiversity and parkland and things like that gives me some food for thought, and to actually be a bit positive, feel that things are looking positively in the direction of the councillors, the local councillors.
Time.
Yeah, just to finish, Mayor, just on the bridge, the Brackenstown Bridge, if it could be called Brackenstown Pedestrian Cycle Bridge, as Mr. McAleese just called it, it takes away a lot of vague stuff about it, because people may not know what's happening. And I'm just glad I was instrumental in getting an indicative line for a road off the map a number of years ago, and now to see it replaced with an active travel facility such as this, and I support. Thank you.
Thank you. So Councillor J.K. Onamwera.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I would like to commend the allocation of substantial sums, especially for the development of community facilities, community centers in the area. As I've always argued, community centers are the hub of community life, and they serve a host of different purposes. So to see that Fingal County Council is focusing on the development of community facilities is really commendable. In a special way, I also want to mention the 2.3 million, allocated to the development of a library in Churchfields. I recall during the development plan stages, I did argue that there was a need for a facility in Churchfields to serve the Kilmartin, Torrostown, Powerstown axis, given that Mulhodat is almost very congested, and I'm happy to see that this is coming up. So for me, I would like to see something more than just a library. I would like to see a community facility there that would also take into consideration, cultural development, the arts, and a real proper community facility there, and not just a library. And I'm sure that amount, when we do obviously see the plan, would give us an indication of what is coming there, but it's quite commendable. Also to thank the managers for St. Margaret's Hall, which will be opening very soon. But my question here is, do we have additional plan to develop the surroundings? As we all know, St. Margaret's, lack the necessary facilities, and, the only way we can actually create a hub for people in St. Margaret's, especially in that particular area, is to see if we can develop the garden area, and also maybe to look into the use of the parish hall, which is currently derelict. If we can regenerate the parish hall and maybe look at how we can develop the surrounding areas for proper community life, I'm sure that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. So Councillor Malachy Quinn.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just want to welcome the works that continue in Balbriggan and Skerries, and just to note the works that are proposed for Lochshinny, the playground, and the improvement works in Lochshinny, and that is credit to Lochshinny Community Association for all the lobbying and work they've done over the years. I just want to raise the issue of the R122 and the junction exit 6 and the M1, and ask the question: is the further resourcing of the Knoll Road subject to the conversations with the NTA? Is it the case that if the NTA are not going to progress the junction satisfactory to the development of our Stephenstown site and the framework plan, will that put the Khyber, so to speak, on the Knoll Road, or will we continue to improve the access point on the Knoll Road? Thank you very much.
Okay, I have two more councillors, so I'm keeping going. It's Darren Jack Kelly. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for the presentation on the capital programme. Some exciting projects in all departments of Fingal County Council, which is great to see. Just on community, and it's probably this question is directed to Mr. Carroll. I'm delighted that Rivermead is on the older Community Centre Improvement Works programme. It's been long overdue, and the community of St. Mary's will welcome this with great anticipation. Has any work started on this yet? And if so, what has been done so far? And can you please advise on when the community centre will be open? That's really what I want to ask. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Patrick Quinlan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. 1.4 billion euro in the capital programme, of which 884 million euro is being allocated to housing. That represents 60% of the entire capital programme, of which the allocation to housing, 30%, 259 million euro, is going to be allocated to build 3,000 social housing units. Quite a significant portion of the housing budget. In December 2024, I asked the councillor, or I asked the Director for Housing if we could collate the information on how many foreign nationals are on Fingal County Council social housing list. At the time, the reply was that it's considered that significant time that would be involved in the collation of same would represent an unjustifiable use of public resources. Well, considering that your department has been allocated 60% of the capital programme over the next 2 years, do you still maintain that collating that information would be a significant misuse of public resources?
Okay, thank you. So, and finally, Councillor Jimmy Kieran.
Yeah, today is the 13th of October. On the 13th of October 2021, we published our capital plan for that year, which was 740 million. Today we're looking at one which is 1.4 billion. And I said to somebody last week, sure, most of it's fiction anyway. Will it happen? And a paragraph in the 21 plan is a total of 20 million has been set aside for new community centres in Meekstown and Baldoyle. And these are now up and running. So Oliver's been cute the way he's gathered and hid the money. But I think in fairness we have delivered in this local authority. It's an ambitious plan. Yes, everybody will have particular wishes, but I think overall this is something we should be very proud of as a local authority. And to double it in 4 years and to deliver most of what was in the 21 plan is a huge achievement for both the members and the executive. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, so we'll go back now to the directors for questions or answers. Sorry.
Yeah, just two for me. I think Lochshinny Active Travel. There will be an assessment report coming back to the area committee next month, and that will obviously indicate what may be the next stages in relation to that. So that will be brought to the area committee. And just into the outturn for Climate Travel Act, the outturn, as I said at the very start, we've 33 schemes and obviously the Safe Route to Schools, and we include all of them in the programme, but it is based on the allocation of funding we get from the department. And that allocation for active travel is split between ourselves and PSI. So that's on the basis of what we got. We spent what we got. So that's where you see the figure there in the outturn.
Thanks, Dave. There was a query there in relation to the Fingal Coastal Way. Yeah, just to confirm, so that will link the two towns. But it will have to link into existing active travel infrastructure on either ends. It won't just be a case of active travel along the main road and then not having safe connectivity back into the town. So that will be a key element of the project. The Skerries Hub, yeah, we have no timelines around that. I think, as you pointed out, just we need the land issue just to be resolved before we would start making plans. We've significant number of recreational hubs there, either in planning or on site next year: Ballymastone, Rush, Lusk, and Braymore. Appreciate Councillor Newman's comments just in relation to Brackenstown Bridge, and we do look forward to bringing that key project forward. And then in the R122, the Knoll Road, so there's 600,000 has been allocated in the plan. That's to start the process for the upgrade of that road, and it will require significant engagement with the TII and NTA.
The other, yeah, Mary C. Daly.
I think I've just got one there, Councillor Ryan, with regards.
There's a question there about the LAP, the Swords LAP. Thanks.
I'll go back to Matthew to finish that.
Councillor Ryan, you raised about the cemeteries. What I've included in the capital budget is where we have a cemetery and we have to landscape it for more plots as such. So I have to do that for. I certainly have to do it for the Knoll, and the other cemetery is Whitestown, and also some at Rollstown. So that's what's provided for in the revenue budget there. I don't have any plans for Flemington, but I can certainly look into Flemington. So it's just 500,000 over the next 3 years for works that have to be done to extend the landscaped areas for new plots.
Okay, so back to Matthew and Joe's question.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, well, look, the allocation for the SOARS local area plan is covered in the 3 million that covers all forward planning projects. You know, the variation process that we're currently working on has diverted a lot of the resources. You know, it's once that variation process has been resolved, then we will be able to put the resources back onto the SOARS local area plan.
Paul Carroll.
Yeah, just in relation to the community facility at Churchfields, the current phase on site at the moment, we have a facility which will be used temporarily as a library and then ultimately will be used as a community facility for the local community, with the library forming part of the next phase, which is currently going through the design process. In relation to St Margaret's Hall and Rivermead and the timelines, you can see from the capital plan the sums of money in each year give you a broad indication of when that work will be carried out. So we would expect that Rivermead will take place during 2026 and St Margaret's would be during 2027. And then that will be teased out further during the design phase with our architects department and with our own team and community and the local community to kind of make sure that we're doing what will be a useful facility for the community. So that's kind of spec'ing and specifying what we want the building to function as and what we want it to ultimately be used as. In relation to Councillor Quinlan's query on the nationality of applicants on our social housing lists, I do still think that's an unjustifiable use because it doesn't come into our consideration when we're going through the process. So it's of little value for us to engage in that exercise. But at the time I also stated that if the motion was passed, that we would carry out, and if the motion is passed again, we'll do that as well. So.
Okay, have all the directors answered? Everyone answered, or?
Yes.
Right, grand, okay. So it is 4 minutes to 7. We need to find another way of doing this. I mean, it's very important, it's huge money, but in my opinion, we need to find another way of doing this, or maybe have a special meeting about it, and then do our normal council. But anyway, we are where we are. So I have 6 motions here before me from Councillor David Healy. 4 of these look to me like they should be at an area committee. And the other 2 then are asking for monies to be added to this capital plan. And the total is 5.6 million over 6 motions. And in my opinion, because there is no identified source of funding, they're all out of order. Councillor Healy, that's the ruling I'm making. They're out of order. And I don't know what other route you have. You can write to the Chief Executive or bring a council motion, normal council motion, but there is no identified source of funding. Like where, if you're asking for 3.5 million, they're all good motions. For solar panels and Belaley landfill, that the director over there has indicated he's going to look at that anyway. Where's the 3.5 million going to come from? There's nothing here saying where it's going to come from, or are we going to take it off and already, well, it's not agreed, but an item that's already in the capital plan. And I'll let you come back to me now, but I'm ruling the motions out of order. So, Councillor Healy.
I'm perfectly happy to submit them with indications of where the money is to come from. Just for the information of the meeting, the first one is about the sum for Belaley, which, based on the SPC presentation earlier in the year, I think works out at between 3 and 4 million rather than the 1 million which has been allocated. And that's the back of the envelope calculation. I appreciate that's the process. The second motion is that the capital programme include a sum of 1 million for solar panels above council car parks. That is a motion which this council has already passed, not in terms of the sum, but that we would go ahead with that and I don't know why it isn't being implemented in the draft capital programme. The response to the question which I submitted on Thursday really doesn't explain it to me. This is something which, you know, the reference was made to the Climate Action Plan in the response, but this is something, even if climate change wasn't happening, that would be good management of our land. The third is in relation to the pedestrian and cycle bridge across the railway line in Malahide. That is something which has been recommended for inclusion in the capital programme by the Howth Malahide Area Committee, and the proposal is for 200,000 to get it going. Fourth is the Greenway link from Kinseely to Kettles Lane, which has been discussed many times in this chamber and at the Area Committee over the last 7 years. 5 is the Greenway link between Claremont Road and the West Pier, which also was recommended in the last couple of months by the Area Committee. And the 5th is the capital programme for the redesign of Howth Station Forecourt, also recommended by the Area Committee and which the NTA has undertaken to fund. So if it'll facilitate you, I'll have the motions all back to you with the source of funding indicated in the next 5 minutes.
Okay, well, I've already made my ruling. I've ruled them out of order, and I'm sticking with that ruling, and I'm moving on. That's my ruling.
I understand it's your ruling and it's within your rights to make such a ruling, but under legislation and under our standing orders, the only time we have to identify the source of funding in our motions is in the revenue budget, not the capital budget. It's clearly separated out between capital and revenue, and for your ruling would be certainly in order for a revenue budget. It's certainly not in order, in my opinion, or under standing orders or under the legislation in order whatsoever. So I just want to make sure it was objected to on record.
Thank you, Councillor. My ruling stands. I'm not going to take the motions. That's it. Okay, so we're moving on. So what do we do now? We
Proposed, seconded and agreed.
noted or agreed?
Noted.
So the programme is noted. Noted. Thank you. Okay. So now we go on to number 21, disposal of properties. So 21A, notice of proposed disposal of land, Clonswords, Ballybockle, County Dublin, proposed by Councillor Boland, seconded by Councillor Kelly. That's agreed, I think. Agreed? Agreed. And then we go into declaration of roads, number 22. So if we do these individually, yes? So 22A, Glasslyn, Dundabate, proposed by someone from Dundabate, Karina Johnson, and seconded by Councillor Paul Mulville. And then 22B, Taylor Hill, Phase 1 and 2, Balbriggan, proposed by Councillor Grania Maguire, seconded by Councillor Tony Murphy. 22C, Greenbrook Rush, County Dublin, proposed by, I'll propose it if someone will second it. Anyone second it? Who's that? Councillor Karina Johnson. And now we're on to part 11, 23, part 11. What have I to do with this now? Can I get a proposal? These have been through area committees, and we can do them one by one. But can I get a proposer and a seconder for part 11 of the Planning Development Act as amended, part 8 of the Local Government Planning Development Regulations as amended, proposed public place-based development at Hartstown Park, Dublin 15, proposed by Kieran Dennison, seconded by Councillor Angela Donnelly. So that's agreed. Okay. And then we go on to the next one. I'm not sure about this one, but sure, let's see. So 24, and there's some emails have landed on this one. So we'll see. I don't know what the members want to do, but this is a report pursuant to Part 11 of the Planning Development Act 2000 as amended, Part 8, Local Government Planning Development Regulations 2001, proposed public place-based development at Hazelberry Park, Dublin 15. Ellen Troy. Councillor Troy wants to speak.
I visited Hazelberry Park just there on Thursday. Councillor John Walsh was with me. I couldn't believe that the play area has a crossroads, like a through road. Now, obviously not for cars, but it felt like it was a highway because there was scramblers going up and down, and scooters and all sorts. And we were on the grass and we were half afraid. So I can't understand why a playground. I've never seen a playground in my life with that arrangement. So I feel that it's, as well as that, it's in the corner of the park at the smallest part of it. And there's the GA pitches to one side and houses to the other. But one of the roads is a crossroads, and that the road goes, it's hard to explain this, but the where you would park your car to go to the playground is very close to the playground, and it's open plan. And I was just thinking, children, like, we're talking about children. I've just never seen such a playground, and I've nothing against playgrounds. I think it's brilliant that we have a playground. The more playgrounds, the better, but I think it should be further up in the park, at the widest part of the park, and I think there's a kind of natural raised hill area. That's where it should be, and there's fencing all around there with houses looking on, and it would mean that possibly their children could be playing and they could nearly see them from their houses. So I just think it's in a crazy part of and the first map as well on the plan there doesn't show the crossroads. It only shows like a T-junction, if you like, but it's actually a crossroads. Now, it's not just a path, it's a car could fit on it. I'm just shocked, because having children myself, if you see children, they see another toy over there or a play thing and they run across. It's just natural. That's what children do. I'm surprised.
Okay. I don't know what happened at area committee on this, but anyway, Councillor Angela Donnelly.
Thanks a lot. And we have had a lot of discussion about Hazelbury Park and a lot of back and forth with emails. I know myself and some other councillors were up meeting residents a couple of months ago. There has just, like, a lot of these questions have already been answered. I think, and certainly following the public consultation, there were changes to the original plan in terms of the wetland has been removed in favour of a swale, and also the canopy that was covering the picnic benches has been removed. And I do understand the residents' concerns, because there is a lot of antisocial behaviour in the park at the moment. I do think that the more people will use the park, the less antisocial behaviour there will be, and the more passive surveillance, and I 100% agree with that philosophy. I do think that there are still some people that are very worried about the park, the proposed play area, and I do think removing the picnic tables, and I know we said that we could have a discussion and, discussion with the residents following this meeting, but I do think removing the picnic tables and looking at the swale, because they seem to be the things that really are concerning people. And I think although the swale has been explained to us, I think the residents just, they just aren't, they're not buying that explanation, and they're still really, really worried. So, I do think removal of the seating area and removal of the swale would go a long way towards the residents feeling more comfortable with it. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor John Walsh.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mayor. I have a couple of comments on this, and I was going to ask, actually, I'm sure Mr. Halpenny has a presentation, but I'm happy for him to reply anyway to the debate. I suppose, listen, I would share the concerns expressed by my colleagues. I was there last week to look at it, and it is I think there's a number of issues. A group of residents in Hansfield Estate in particular are extremely worried. I suppose there's some issues which are not part of this project. Hazelbury Park, and I don't mean any disrespect to anyone saying this, is not very well designed. I mean, it seems the original intention was to have a road. There is effectively, instead of a footpath through it, there is effectively a road, which is thankfully not used, and really should have been redesigned as a footpath previously. But that's in fairness not within. That's not something that Mr. Halpenny can do as part of this project. But it is of concern to residents, and it is a kind of highway for scramblers. So I think there's support in principle for a playground. A lot of concerns were expressed to me about the location of the playground about the wetland area and about the picnic and seating area. I do welcome the changes that have been made, the removal of the canvas shade structure, and I have to say I thought the original pond was a really bad idea on a number of fronts, and I think the fact that there was a wetland area in the proposal was quite damaging. In the eyes of the residents. I'd like to see the picnic seating area removed, and I would certainly like the swale looked at again in terms of whether the swale is absolutely necessary in that location. There's a lot of concern and even fear among residents around the location of the swale. So I just hope that some of those issues could be addressed, because there's a group of residents who remain very concerned and indeed distressed about it.
Okay, Councillor Tom Kidd.
Thanks, Mayor, and I fully support the speakers ahead of me there. I mean, the residents, we have met them several times on this issue, and we've been in contact with Kevin. There is some alterations made to the site, as I call it. The biggest problem I have is the location of it. I mean, we can't refuse young children a place for playing area. It's very important. I know it's very adjacent to Halesbury Park, the football pitch there, but as Kevin Halfpenny told us that he would be making alterations to it which would suit the football and the area. I mean, we know it's a dangerous area along, as Councillor Trice said about the area along there. It's like a main thoroughfare, and there's no proper exit or inlet into it. But I mean, that's my biggest objection. I'm not going through the changes that was made by Fingal to the area, but I still think that the major objection to the people in the area, they're not objecting to the play area or the place itself, it's the location of it. And I just feel sorry that Cabinet is going to meet them after next week or the week after, and they will put these points across as it is a part 8. All right, thank you.
Councillor Gerard Sheehan. Yes, Councillor.
15 to at least see the presentation before we have the discussion.
I should have asked for the presentation prior. Apologise for that. I have 2 more councillors, and then I'm going to ask for the presentation. You're correct, Councillor. So who did I call there? Gerard Sheehan. Yes.
Thank you. Just wanted to raise the same concerns, more or less, as the other councillors have raised, and they were the concerns from meeting with the residents. From the maps, for example, it's difficult to see that distance of 30 metres from the local housing. When we were there, it appeared to be right on top of it. Of course, I'm sure that the proper measuring tapes were taken out, but it just wasn't very clear for us. And also the clarity in relation to the connection between the pitch, the recent pitch, the drainage system which took place there, which was excellent, absolutely necessary, but if there is, or whether or not there is a connection between the proposed swale and the water drainage system in that. Also, like the other councillors, I live in the area, I know it fairly well, and it is the concern in relation to the junction at which the playground is proposed. There's motorised traffic, it's like the e-bikes, the electric bikes, the scramblers, everything else. So I'd hope and wonder how that particular issue will be addressed. Obviously, it's not directly, it is partially a policing issue, but that how that particular issue could be addressed as well. But as I mentioned, it is on behalf of the residents, and they are concerned. They were delighted to see some of the removal of the canopy, etc. But that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jimmy Gearan.
I'm speaking without the knowledge of the area or the actual project, but I would like to speak in a more general terms. We came up with a similar issue in Howth a number of years back, where there were objections and concerns of antisocial behaviour in a playground that we were looking to extend there. And similar types of objections were made and antisocial behaviour, and I got into terrible trouble because I commented that I didn't think it would be an issue between 3 and 7-year-olds. However, what I would say is that I think it's wrong for us not to encourage anything where we're bringing these facilities for children and their families into an area. And I would encourage anyone who has any concerns about delivery to go out to the playground in Howth, which was completed, I think, last year and has been an award-winning nationally playground, We can deliver these things, and we need to deliver them for the children and the parents who are trying to occupy the times. So I would ask people to bear that in mind. There will be opposition. There always is to these things, but in general, these are the right things and right movements. And when you see 20 or 30 oppositions coming in with the same issue, you wonder about the collaboration between groups. So I would really encourage people to support this and look forward to it being there for the benefit of the children for many, many years to come. Thanks.
Okay, that's all the speakers I have. I'm going to go to the officials now for a presentation. I'm just wondering what the budget is for this. And I did attend the Knoll Playground sod turning, and if I would, well, I think it was 10 years we were waiting to get to that, and it's a major expenditure, so I don't know, like, if this doesn't go ahead, I don't know where it'll sit and if it'll happen at all. So anyway, we'll go to the officials, and I apologise, I should have got the presentation first. So we'll go to the officials now, thank you, and then see what happens.
Good afternoon, councillors. My name is Oliver Hoey. I'm one of the senior executive park superintendents in the strategic and planning department. I'm going to give you the presentation today, which is a summary of the chief executive's report resulting from the Part 8 consultation which took place last month. Brief recap on the summary of the proposals, which is pretty much the findings of the planning on the evaluation whether the proposed development is consistent with proper planning and sustainable development in the area, an overview of the statutory public consultation which took place, and a summary of the key themes from the submission received and the responses from the public on that, and then in the end the recommendation. The reason this area was chosen, you can see from the map there on the circular area, which is a radius of 1 kilometre. There's a huge deficiency in play infrastructure in that area around Hazelbury Park. Hazelbury Park itself, due to the size of it, we get a recommended type of play provision for that area. It's the second smallest type of playground which Fingal provide, and it's generally set up to try and accommodate locals that only need to travel 500 metres to 1 kilometre from the homes around it. Some of the provisions around that is that it should be located near a well-used pedestrian route, that the position within the park should be well drained and reasonably flat, should be at least 25 metres from the nearest dwelling, and should have good passive observation opportunities. This is an outline of the plan itself, an artist's rendering of it. On the top left you can see the area where there is formal play equipment in it. On the left is the controversial proposed wetland, which is now becoming a swale. On the other side of it there you have a mound and slide built into it. And on the extreme right hand side is an indication of the scale drawing of the area proposed. So a description of that area is it's approximately 1,000 square metres. As a comparison to that, Hartown Park is 3,000 square metres. It will have approximately 20 play items within it, and it was designed in such a way as to provide interest in the areas of a woodland, a wetland area, a hill quarter and a meadow quarter. The provision will provide bicycle parking because we expect and want to encourage a lot of the locals to come via active travel means and not by car. There will be extensive tree planting and landscaping as part of the proposals. The canvas structure, which was proposed as a focal point, we have taken note from the consultation, and we have gotten rid of that as we have done the wetland quarter. We are now talking about the picnic benches, and I think that is something which is very much part of the detailed design, and as we go forward, if it gets passed tonight, this is something that we will actively engage with the residents on. So the findings of the planning report on evaluation of whether or not the proposed development would be consistent and is considered as part of the development plan would be in accordance to the zoning objectives of Fingal County Council Development Plan and the policies as they relate to open space, green infrastructure and play provision throughout the county. The development would enhance the amenities of the area through improving the range of facilities in the area, and that the proposed development is considered in accordance with proper planning and sustainable development of the area. The public consultation itself went out. There are statutory timelines for it. It went out in public display on the 16th of July. It was advertised in the press and in other social media. Submissions encouraged prior to the closing date of the 27th of August, and then we had a 2-week further submission period for people to send in their comments on it. 60 submissions were received in total. Summary of the observations, we have them summarised here into a number of different categories. Those categories are support for the project. Within that category itself, some people like the proposals in principle. They were worried about antisocial behaviour and vandalism. Litter and public health was another topic which came up. The maintenance and management was a topic which obviously came up as well. Requests for additional facilities, wondering about surveillance and security of the facility when it's finished, and some concerns on the location and the scale of the proposed facility within the park. So, as I said, 60 submissions were received. These are into 15 different themes which are listed on this page. And then 11, so general support for the project. You can see the comments there supporting the great imaginative proposals of this, that the play area in the neighbourhood is long overdue, that an increase in all-round play opportunities for locals here. That it would be great to have a playground within walking distance, and delighted to see proposed development and a valuable recreational space within the park. On the negative themes, we had 50 submissions in total. They're really grouped around 5 or 6 different themes. People are worried that the prominent location of the space will provide passive observation opportunities, that the increased footfall in the park because of the proposal would add to the passive surveillance in the area, and its location at the crossroads would help that, because it's a crossing route for schools and for kids going to school and parents taking their kids to school every day. Further to the antisocial behaviour comments, the Council commit to working with the Operations Department and the Community Garda as appropriate in keeping an oversight of the area in an effort to keep antisocial behaviour to a minimum. We believe that the improved landscape will very much better the impression of the park and people's respect for the park, and that the equipment selected within that will always be quite resilient. With regard to littering and hygiene, we have committed to putting in additional bins to the area, and additional resourcing will be put in as appropriate to cope with litter management. Public toilets are not considered under this application and can be explored in the future, and that the pond itself has been redesigned as a rain garden and swale feature for improved access for litter picking in the area. The location and scale of the proposals. It is our belief that the proposed location within the park is in accordance with the guidelines outlined in the Space for Play policy. The pond has been redesigned and has been rethought of on foot of the submissions which have been put in, and we are still proposing to put in a swale within that. I will explain that as we go through your comments and queries on that. The space will be redesigned to omit the shade canopy as a feature area where people may gather for antisocial behaviour, and the privacy and noise issue can be further addressed as we go through the detailed proposals with strategic planting and landscaping interventions within the scheme. With regard to health and safety, the control of bicycles and scooters travelling at speed has been considered as part of the proposal, and it is proposed to install rumble strips on the approach to it. So while we can't deal with speeding bikes within the other areas. Within this particular area within the park, we can slow them down by provision of rumble strips. Play space, we do not see as increasing vehicle or traffic within the area. We have 2 other proposals in the area at the moment, both in Ongar and in Hartstown Park, and the provision of these play spaces will significantly decrease the need for people to wantonly come to Hazelbury Park to play within those facilities there. The pond in the wetland area will be redesigned and constructed as a swale/rain garden, which will give us a more resilient proposal going forward in the face of climate change and expected extreme rain events going forward. Ball stop nets will be installed if required at the perimeter close to the GAA pitch to prevent balls entering the play space. With regard to traffic and parking, as I said in the other one, we are not foreseeing an increase in traffic coming to the area. We know that on the weekends a lot of traffic comes in there. With regard to the football pitches, we're providing 1 space for those who cannot get there, whose mobility is impaired, but we certainly would encourage everybody to come to the area by means of active travel. The proposal was assessed by the Transportation and Planning section, and no traffic issues were raised by them. Objections to the proposal. Objections due to concerns and issues highlighted above due to its size, location, parking, the canopy structure and the pond. The proposals have been revised by our department, and we've omitted the canopy structure on the basis of the submissions from the public, also with the attenuation pond, and has been redesigned, as I say, as a rain garden, which gives us a more resilient landscape in the area. There is an open ditch in the area, which is an historical open ditch, and it's the lowest area in the park, and it has acted as a ditch in the past. What we are proposing as part of the swale is that be expanded into a bigger capacity in order to take any rainfall in adverse weather effects. So in effect, we will reduce the risk of flooding in the area. The recommended proposals we have gone through there. These are examples of swales, and if anybody is interested in looking at swales around the county, if you go into any housing estate which has been constructed in the last 5 years within Fingal, you'll see swales along all the roadsides, and indeed integrated football areas and kickabout areas are swales which are part of the open spaces in these estates. The planning report found that the proposed place in Hazelbury Park would be in accordance with the zoning objectives applicable to these lands in the Fingal County Development Plan and policies as they relate to open space and green infrastructure and play provision. It's recommended that the Council approve the proposed play space at Hazelbury Park, Dublin 15, as proposed this evening. Thank you.
Kevin Halpin, you want to say a few words?
We take the questions now
Look at
from earlier.
I don't know if you want to say, right, if you're insisting on the questions, I don't know. We're at 7:30 and we've stuff here in front of us. I know it's important, yeah? We've stuff here in front of us to get through as well. So I don't know if you want to go through all the questions, or Kevin, you want to briefly?
No, I'll just do an overall response, because
yes, go ahead.
There's a very strong, there's a number of strong themes there.
Yes.
I mean, apart from being areas where children have fun, we design playgrounds to be safe and accessible. And firstly, we don't open any playground that isn't subject to significant safety audit and certification. And the same will be the case with Hazelbury Playground if it's approved. We won't open it until it's certified safe for use. So it's really important to understand that. The accessibility piece is really important as well. It's very clear in our policy. Our playgrounds must be accessible to all children. And this is the case. This is a big part of the reasoning for the location of the playground. We want it to be front and centre in the park, in a very obvious location, with good passive supervision that children can get to easily. And we're going to design the park around the playground, redesign it around the playground. And that means as was mentioned in the presentation, a certain amount of traffic calming, certain amount of landscape works that will enhance the accessibility and improve the park overall, improve the setting of the park and the playground in combination. And just to be very clear, a lot of concerns expressed about very modest sort of water wetland feature. We have eliminated that. It now would be a very modest feature with planting and subsurface water attenuation that is landscaped sensitively into the playground and just deals with the water generated from the development of the playground. So, as I've said at the area committee, you know, it can be difficult to put ideas like this across that don't generate a certain amount of concern. At local level, we understand that. And to mitigate that, I have offered to meet the local residents on site. Number one, to explain, you know, the scale and the extent of the planned project, but also to hear their particular concerns and, as far as possible, mitigate those in the context of the detailed design, which we hope to work on over the next couple of months.
Okay, right, we'll be maybe going to a vote on this, I'll have to see, but just very briefly, Councillor Owen O'Brien.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, and apologies coming in to comment on something here in Dublin 15, but after the contributions from some of the local members there, I'm kind of a little bit confused. A few seemingly spoke against this, but I'm not sure whether they're calling for a refusal of this project. It looks to me on the face of it to be a very well designed, very positive amenity for an area. I think it is actually a shame that you've proposed to remove the pond. We have a dearth of those kind of amenities in our parks in general across Fingal. But yeah, look, if the local members and the local community don't want this play facility, I'm sure we can find any number of communities across the county that would welcome the resources put in by Mr. Halpenny's department and find a location that we could develop something similar where it's wanted. Thanks.
Okay, 30 seconds.
Me? No, it's not that we don't want the play area. Absolutely we want the play area. I'm just still wondering, can anybody tell me of a playground that has such a crossroads in the middle of it when you know the area is full of scramblers? I'm actually nervous even looking at it. And the other night was very scary. And the thought of little children running across from one area to another, across that, there's the school,
okay.
there's a lot of traffic there, and I just think it's deadly.
Thank you. Right. Okay, so what do you want to do with this? I have to seek a proposer. Yeah. Is it agreed, or are we going to a vote on this? Agreed. Agreed. Okay. So I still need a proposer and seconder. Who's going to put? Proposed by Councillor O'Brien and seconded by Councillor Emer Carboni Mangan. Got it right this time. Okay, so we go on to number 25, item 25. This is for noting only. It's the Draft Development Contribution Scheme. Members, hello. Draft Development Contribution Scheme for noting. The report is noted. Is that okay? It's going out on public display. 3 people. Okay. Councillor where am I? Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mayor. I know it's for noting and we'll have an opportunity to vote on it in December after it comes back for public consultation. I just have one question for clarity. On the assumption that we make, on the presumption that there's any motions put forward to it in December, does it have to go back out in public consultation again? Because then the timelines are shot to hell, because I looked through it there Friday nights when it came in, and I'd certainly would be seriously considering putting motions down in December.
The indication is here no, and this is for, as I understand it, in my opinion, only a 1.5% increase in the levy, and that levy was going to come in anyway on an inflation clause next year. We'll go to Councillor Ted Leddy.
Okay, well, I'm obviously reading the figures wrong if you say it's 1.5%, because the levies in the last term were €98 per square metre and they're gone up to 135. So unless I've obviously got something wrong, but they're the figures I'm seeing. Could somebody explain that? I was going to ask why it's €35 more expensive.
Okay, yeah, we'll get
an extension. Thank you.
That was not my understanding from the presentation I saw, but we'll get clarity from Oliver. So, Councillor David Healy.
Yeah, okay. We received this on Friday, and those of us not on the SPC, obviously, I think it's the first time we were notified that it was coming. There was reference in the report to a consultancy study by EY. That hasn't been supplied to us to the best of my knowledge, and I'd certainly be interested in seeing it. I have essentially the same question as Councillor Humphreys. Will we be free to make whatever changes we need after the public consultation? Because I think there are a number of respects in which we should be amending what's before us at the moment in order to encourage and facilitate housing development. And I will have a number of amendments aimed at that. And so just to understand the process whereby, you know, the public consultation, then the results of that will be discussed with us with adequate time for us to consider it and propose and make our amendments in December. I think it's quite important that we don't end up with a kind of a last-minute amendments process. And yeah, thank you.
Okay, then we go to, that's all the speakers. Brian Murray.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach and members. Just in relation to Councillor Leddy, the scheme is subject to annual indexation. So the rates went up each year. So the proposal for 2026 is to increase the rates by 1.5%, where if the scheme wasn't reviewed in the coming year, that 1.5% inflation would apply anyway. So we've applied that rate of 1.5%. So it's indexation each year to keep the value of the euro to fund the cost of infrastructure. As you know, this scheme is very important to us, and you saw the capital programme. So to protect that that income stream, we index it each year. As you know, our own costs are incurring inflation, so it's to try and protect the value of that income stream. The EY report, the intention was to circulate that in advance of the councillors' briefing, so the intention is to do a briefing in about 2 to 3 weeks' time. I was kind of conscious of and I brought this to the CPG last week, I'm conscious of the timetable in terms of the councillors and briefings on the capital programme, and that's where the rubber hits the road in terms of the development levies. So the intention is to give the members a full briefing late October, early November. There will be an opportunity for you to make submissions or make changes on the night. It is a reserved function.
Okay, so, yeah, Councillor Humphreys.
No, the report, the report is, or the scheme will be adopted at the meeting by resolution. It's a matter for the members ultimately.
Okay, so the report is noted. Thank you. So we move on to number 26, draft Stevenstown and Folkestown Little Framework Plan.
Mayor,
Councillor,
this is the Stevenstown Land Bank at Balbriggan, economic zone. There, it's two framework plans as provided under the county development plan. It was out on public display late last year and into this year, and there was 15 submissions received. The Chief Executive's report is circulated to members. There has been 2 briefings on this, Mayor, but we do have the team involved here to make presentation if the members so wish. If not, or in any case, there is a resolution worded there in the covering report for members to pass if they wish to.
With the members' permission to seek a proposer and seconder, unless there are other speakers. Anyone want to propose and second from Balbriggan? Proposed, seconded by Councillor Quinn. So is that agreed? Agreed. Agreed? Yes? Agreed. Thank you. Okay. So I have to read the resolution now. Is that correct? Yes. So that the draft Stevenstown FP4A and Folkestown Little FP4B framework plan is hereby agreed with the amendments recommended in the Chief Executive's report in line with the policies and objectives of the Fingal Development Plan 2023 to 2029 and to proper planning and sustainable development of the area. Do I need to get agreed?
That's agreed.
Agreed. That's agreed. Right. Okay. I hope we're procedurally right there. Thank you. Now, where am I next? Speed limit. Number 27. Special speed limit bylaw, Mylara Road, Balbriggan, County Dublin. Maybe something similar, unless you want to discuss it. This is through our area committee. Would you like to speak? Proposed by Councillor Murphy, seconded by Councillor Maguire. Agreed? Agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Where am I now? Resolution, sorry. Where is it? Fingal County Council, an exercise with the powers conferred on it by Section 9 of the Road Traffic Act 2004, bracket number 44 of 2004 and Section 86 of the Road Traffic Act 2010, bracket number 25, 2010, close bracket, and Section 22 of the Road Traffic Act 2016, bracket number 21 of 2016, and following consultation with the Garda Síochána, makes the following special speed limit bylaw. 2025 proposed speed limit reduction from 50 km per hour to 30 km per hour at Mylara Road, bracket L1171, close bracket, from its junction with Castle Mills Link Road to the roundabout junction at Harry Reynolds Road, Balbriggan. Agreed? I hope. Yeah. Right. Now, next. Community Activities Funding Scheme presentation, Naomi Weir. I don't know. Or do you just want to propose her and second her? Has this been through area committee or? SPC, right. We can take a proposer and seconder on this if? No report. Okay, right, so let's see what we're at here.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors. I'll go as quickly through this as I possibly can, while still giving it enough time. So this is proposed amendments to the Community Department Activity Funding Scheme for 2026. Just very briefly, this scheme supports a community activity that has a developmental aspect that contributes to the growth, development and advancement of a community group. It came into play in 2000, it was reviewed in 2006, 2018 and 2025 again. The scheme targets community-focused groups on the county database with a focus on community development. It's capped at 3,000 per annum subject to budgets. And this is really important. It's a tool used by the Community Office to collaborate with local groups to address local needs. And the reason I say that's important is because we did have some queries at the SPC and some concerns, and rightly so. But this is not a scheme that you apply as a community group and you get a yes/no. We work with you to get you over the line, that you will get your grant once everything's above board and everything is correct. We work with you over a period of time. And that's really important. So we want people to get these grants and get that money out into the community. Now I'll go straight into the amendments for 2026 that we're proposing. Number of items to be capped. Insurance costs to be capped at 500 per annum. The average cost is around 368, 370 for most groups. Transport costs. We only pay transport costs for older adult groups at the moment. And we want to cap those at 25% of a funding application. So still 25% of 3,000 is still a significant amount of money to be spending on transportation. Professional services, tutors, facilitators, speakers, we have found in the last few years that they're taking up the full £3,000. The groups are not getting any other value other than the speaker on the day. the event is not happening, you know, things are not working out. So we want that capped to 50% of the funding application, with the remainder going for the actual developmental aspect, the actual event itself or initiative itself. And laptops and smartphones. This is one we're quite concerned about, that we'd like to see this capped at 25% of funding application, and they must be for group use. We've noticed that they're starting to go into drawers and into the back of cars, and they're not being used for the use of groups. So all of these are based on the experience of the community officers on the ground. And like I said earlier, we want to give people this money. We want this scheme working well. And these are just some small changes that we'd like to bring in. This is a change that we would like to bring in for a number of reasons, and that would be that it would have a time scale that it would open on the 1st of January and close on the 30th of June. And that would facilitate better timing in the processing for groups, insofar as we could process their applications over the summer period. We'll be processing them all year round, but we get a glut of them at that time of the year anyway. And they would draw down their grants then before the end of the year. It brings us in alignment with other grant schemes. The community officers, as I said earlier, they will still be working year round with these groups. The groups are not going to be abandoned in any way. For ourselves, it makes it a lot easier for us to manage our budgets and be more proactive and more strategic about what we're doing with the money. We'll know what groups we have in, we'll know how much funding we need for that scheme come June. You know, it just puts us in a much better managerial position there. And it gives us time to work with the groups at a particular time of year when they need us to work with them. And any of these changes will all be well advertised and promoted if they pass this evening. We'd like to make second-hand items eligible in line with the circular economy and all of that. We already have some high-risk items, which will be the likes of inflatables, bouncy castles, some power tools and things like that. But we want to write this into the scheme that they need to have additional criteria. That's from our insurers in relation to proof of insurance and council indemnity, and that's just for safety. We already fund some defibrillators, but we would like to write in that conditions about training and maintenance and the upkeep of those are also kept as part of that. We would like for sports groups to be referred to the sports department so that it's a clearer process for groups, and this is something we're working with the sports department on, and they're examining the possibilities for sports clubs and for any changes that would be brought about any changes that would be brought about will be brought before the members via normal channels. So until then, we would still work with sports groups, but our aim is to get them that we can target them towards the sports department. So it makes it much more straightforward for everybody. We have a number, I have no idea what that is, but we have a number of additional ineligible items. Photographers, videographers, we run courses with groups and we give them training on how to use smartphones, how to use videos, how to use gimbals. We would like to make disposable items again ineligible. So no disposable plates, cups, forks, knives, all of those gone, plastics. Event MCs, we have noticed, are taking up in excess of the 3,000 per event now, which is crazy. And that's something we want to focus this money back in on the community, on the groups themselves. And legal fees is something that we have never really catered for. And again, we'd like to write that into the scheme. So groups will be supported throughout this process year round by the community development staff from start to finish. And if tonight any of these amendments are approved, if they're approved, the amendments, it'll be all well explained to the groups, both in person, by email, by phone, via webinars, and we'll continue to work with these groups. As I said, you know, this is a tool that we use to work within communities. It's not your simple yes, no, as I said earlier on. So I would hope that you would support these couple of changes for 2026. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, we've 13 minutes left at present. Now I have 3 speakers. Councillor Tormey.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and look, I appreciate this is very much coming from the on-the-ground experience. So I just have a question in relation to the transport fees and why, in your experience, it is just for older people, because I'm wondering if it might be a potential barrier for, say, groups of young children with disabilities, and maybe they want to go on a day trip somewhere or something like that. And I just wonder if potentially some groups that may have like additional needs, that might be a barrier for them. You may not get any applications from groups like that, but I just want to make sure that we are being as inclusive as possible in relation to the transport piece. Thank you.
Right. Next, Councillor Brendan Ryan.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a quick one, Naomi. Where you direct sports clubs to the sports department, am I right in thinking that they can still go to you for insurance? Thank you.
Okay, and Councillor David Healy.
Yeah, just in relation to the seasonality, the January to June time frame for making applications, do you intend to start that from next January, so from 2026 onwards, or from straight away? And in fact, have any groups already been told that there's a time restriction? Because obviously, if groups are looking to get money this year and they haven't come in yet, it would be unfair if they're not eligible straight off. Thank you.
Can I get the meeting's permission just to extend for 15 minutes to finish a few items? And I have 3 more councillors. Is that agreed? Yes, thank you. Councillor John Walsh.
Yeah, thanks Naomi for the presentation. And just to say, a huge thank you to the community, to you and the community department for all your work. Because I know the community development officers do great work with local community groups. 2 quick questions. One was the same as Councillor Healy's. I think I'm right in saying that the changes don't come in until next year, so groups can still apply under the old rules for this year. Yeah, I thought that. And then insurance, you mentioned insurance, and I might just have missed what you said. Can groups still apply for insurance, but it's capped, is that right? And just confirm whether the cap is 50% or an actual amount. Thanks.
Councillor Joan Hopkins.
Thank you. I just wanted to say really welcome all of these changes. They're very reasonable and practical, and particularly the one about, being able to use refurb items and getting rid of single-use stuff. Love to see that. And just to thank you personally for all the hard work and wish you the best of luck in your future.
Councillor Siobhan Shovlin.
Yeah, just a really quick question. It's similar to what Councillor Ryan asked, but I know you said that certain queries are going to be redirected to the sports department. Does that mean that the sports clubs will no longer be eligible to apply for the activity funding? Because I know sometimes they apply for items that would be quite different to what they would be looking for in terms of sports equipment. It might be more kind of for admin and bits like that. So that's my question. Thanks.
Okay, we'll go back now to Naomi Weir for replies.
Just the first thing in relation to the transport, we don't get a lot of applications from those type of groups, but we do get some. We tend to notice they have their own buses, their own means of transport that are more suited to their particular needs. It's not something that we've ever turned somebody down on. So we have found that groups were using the transport or the full 3,000 for literally just paying for bus after bus after bus with no supervision, no structured activities, no legacy activity. It was just literally being, the community development side was being pushed to one side, and it was literally, let's just bring people and drop them off at the park, or let's just, so that's the kind of thing we were seeing a lot of. And it's not that we're doing away with them. This can be reviewed at any time as well, but we want to cap them for the older people, that they get better value from, better benefit from. There's also hasn't been any new people in a lot of those groups. It's the same people going to the same places at the same time, and they need to be open to, we've got huge diversity out there now. We have huge growth in our population, and we need to cater for more people, so there's a bit of that in there too, Just in relation to the insurance and the whole thing about sports and that, there's been absolutely, let me be really clear, there's been absolutely nothing decided with the sports department before Mr. Story comes in and kills me. There's been nothing decided with the sports department yet. So at the moment, the way it stands is sports clubs can go to the sports department for sports equipment. They can come to us for activity funding, which includes insurance. And that will stay that way until we convince Mr. Story to say they can go to Mr. Story's department. So if they're a sports club, for simplicity's sake, it would go to the sports department. We would pass across some of our funding, and they would develop their own scheme that would cater for the needs of the clubs. But nothing will change until Mr. Story agrees at his department, and the councillors also agree that it would have to come back through area committee. But it is, the reason I left it in I put it into the presentation was because we had a lot of questions at SPC over that. What will happen with the sports clubs if they go to sports departments? Will they still have funding? Will they still have? They will still have everything for the moment until we bring in something that might be a little bit easier or more streamlined. We don't want to have a situation where we have a possibility of dual funding there, where a sports club could come to ourselves and come to sports, and we're not permitted to dual fund any clubs of any persuasion. So, we want to look at things like that. Just in relation to the insurance, the cap was 500. There's absolutely nothing, this is from next year, proposed from 2026 for all of them. So we're still accepting our year-round applications at the moment under the current. But what we want to do is be ready that we can market this and get it ready for January, if you're in agreement. Just in relation to the Councillor Shufflin, your question on sports, have I answered? I think I did, yeah. And Councillor Hopkins, thank you very much. I'll kill you later in relation to that, but I do appreciate your sentiments. Did you have a question at the end of it? I was so embarrassed I didn't pick it up. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much, councillors. I came in for summer. It's been a long 36 years.
Okay, thank you. That's everything now. So I'd just like to thank Naomi Weir for all her hard work and her genuine efforts, and particularly in the community department. So, yes. Yeah. So I need to get a proposer and seconder for the scheme in front of us. Joe Newman, Councillor Newman and Councillor John Walsh. Is that agreed? Agreed. Okay, so go on to the next item. Where am I here? Arts. At this hour. Go ahead. Yeah.
Can we defer this 29 arts plan?
Well, let's go to the manager and see. This was recommended at the CPG to go ahead, and I'll let the manager speak on it.
There's no time pressure on this, Mayor. It was, I looked at current arts plan is 2019 to 2025. It was included for review under the work programme for the Community Sports and Culture SPC. They met on the 18th of September, and they considered recommendations from the County Arts Officer to continue the plan as it currently is and extend its duration out to 2029. You can just agree, there's a resolution there to extend the time to 2029, so there doesn't need to be a presentation or anything else.
Oh, so what do you want to do? Agreed. Agreed. So I have to go through the. So I'll read the. Accordingly, it is hereby recommended that Fingal County Council resolve to extend the duration of the Fingal Arts Plan to the end of 2029. It is hereby resolved that the duration of the Fingal Arts Plan 2019-25 be extended to 2029. So, can I get a proposer formally, please? Councillor Butler and seconder by Councillor James Humphreys. Agreed? Agreed. Okay, so then Chief Executive's report noted, or do you want to say a few words, Chief Executive? We want to note Chief Executive's report. I don't intend to note it, Grant. And then I've a whole lot of things here just for noting. I want to get them off the agenda. Nothing from me, no business. 32 conference report, and these are all for noting. I'm going to read them out in a run. 32A, AILG, well, just 32A, B and C noted, conference reports. 33A, B, C, D and E noted, and 34A, Department Ministerial A, 34A noted. Okay, and then does anybody want to accept their motions before we finish the meeting? Anybody want to accept the report? Sorry. Councillor Joan Hopkins, what number is it? 48? And we need a seconder for that. I second that, whatever. Or Councillor Mulligan seconds that. Anyone else? Councillor Haughey? Are you seconding that? Yeah. So 49, did you get that? Anyone else? Councillor Kelly? 55. Seconded by Councillor Murphy. Anyone else? That it? I think that's it. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yes. Yes.
Before.
Yeah.
Item 55, I think, needs a does that need to be agreed by the members? So I know we fell foul of that previously, and I apologise to Councillor Kelly, but
he's accepting the report. So there's no action because he accepts the report. What?
The report says if it's about writing a letter, no, the motion has to pass then. Can't accept the report.
I'm told here there's no action. No action.
They're asking us to write a letter, so there is an action.
Yeah,
but the motion is not passed.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
you can't.
okay.
You can't